Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nerds and Words podcast. Today, I'd like to greet Blombear, and Merlin is not here, obviously, and Tim's not here, so I'm doing it, and so you have to suffer through my terrible intro. Welcome to the Nerds and Words podcast, episode 44. Yes. I mean, we have a lot of things to go through this week, as always. Before we do, let's jump in with what you guys have been doing this week. Blombear, great to have you on as a guest. What have you been up to?
Thank you. Not much. Grinding for the merchant ring. Still, we're just putting in the time. It's a lot. I don't get too much time to play, but I've been putting in as much hours as I can at Olin's, and in between Olin groups, I'm doing trade routes and Ash Force and all that. It's my only 2021 goal this year, so anything I finish after, if I ever get this finished, anything after that is a bonus. So, yeah.
Nice. Kerr, what have you been up to, Ben?
So as you know, Potion, I did the mistake of letting chat decide what two classes I'm gonna play for a little while. And so I chose chat chose Sork number one. She had the most votes, and then DK second had the most votes. So I've been going through the ropes of like learning Sork this last week, and it's had some ups and downs.
How long have you been playing a class for?
I tagged her on Monday. I think last Monday was when I tagged her. Or yeah. So almost a week.
You plan to go for like a whole month? Is that how you're doing it, or what?
I'm trying to go on her as long as I can. I'm not sure how long my willpower will like last, but I mean, it's starting to get smoother, and I'm starting to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, it's hard to begin. I feel like on like Sorceress, it's like a strong learning curve, but once you get there, I feel like it's all is worth it.
The PvP is pretty dang fun, honestly. Like the versatility in combos. Like I was learning the down smash reset combo, and it's like it's such a long chain of abilities in a row. So that part's actually been pretty fun. It's more so getting the PvE down with like the camera control with violation, shard management, and keeping your crit buff up with Midnight Stinger and stuff like that. But we're gonna get there. That's about it for me. What about you?
All right, for me this week, I have been leveling Mystic, and we got a 50% drop rate event, and so I've been trying to get my trash loot at Broggy Den for my test. Took inspiration from your 1 million trash loot at Redworks, so I've been trying to pull my trash loot there and test it, but I can't test when the 50% drop rate's active. So like I start my stream and I have to wait a little bit and play around, do other stuff until that goes away, because otherwise it would kind of ruin the test a little bit. You want to have accurate data. So I've been dancing around with what to do a little bit. I think they're probably this week going to make it last 24/7, and so I think I'm just going to go to Sakraya and try to pump out like 2 bill a day or something just crazy to kind of get some cash. But I don't know, that's about it. I've been getting Mystic 62. That was what my chat voted for me to level up, so been slowly doing that, and playing Sage Awakening. So not a whole lot changed there. The new YouTube channel is doing well. So I think I have 13 videos, and the 14th one is almost done processing and everything. And it's been up for about 2 weeks, so it's about 1 video a day.
You already got 13 videos that quick? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm doing 1 a day, and I'm probably gonna bump it up to like 1.5 or 2 a day for some days. I think 2 a day it's just a little too much. I mean, I would like to, but there's only so much a human being can accomplish, and I don't think my willpower will last forever. So.
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of like hold off on the metrics for the Baragi, because like the 50% drop event has a much bigger effect on Hadoom spots as compared to other spots. Because like if you're grinding distos, you have a drop rate for disto of much less than 1%. Whereas, you have drops for 10 mil drops and 3 mil drops at Hadoom spots, which is a pretty decent percentage. So 50% has a big increase,
Mm-hmm. Especially with it being non-marketed money where you're selling directly to a vendor rather than getting a cut. You're not getting taxed on any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Massive.
One of the things I've been trying to do for the YouTube is I try to figure out something that only I can do. And It took me a long time with my slow ass brain, but I figured it out. I am the only person who grinds so much at these different weird ass rotations. So I figured, well, I don't just make. I know like every rotation in BDO. I play almost every class in BDO. So what I did this week is I made 5 videos of Polyforce rotations, just 1 hour of this me grinding there, super simple, and I choose a different class every single time. So you get to see the different rotations at Polyforest, and you also get to see how those classes perform at that grind spot. And that's really only something that I feel like I can do, because who's played like 20 plus classes in this game and hasn't been at 62 or whatever, right? And so that's what I'm trying to kind of accomplish. And I started just going to do popular rotations like Polyforest and stuff, but I want to take it on to more nuanced rotations later on. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. Blondberry, I didn't get to ask you, how many of the rich merchant ring pieces do you have now?
I am still 2 out of 5.
Well,
My
wait,
journey
2 out
was.
of 5? Wait, when did you get the second one?
I got it about a month ago. Oh yeah, I think I was on the last one of the podcast. I only had 1, and I was working on the second one. Yeah, I forgot. I
So-
got the second one about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. It was like at the end of February into March. I got the Paddocks one because I had been going a lot. I did 335 hours when I got my drop, and that was after I saw 3 of my partners get drops. So I'm 2 out of 5.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah,
Ouch, bro.
yeah, it was pretty horrible. I was like at the end of my rope, I was like, "Oh man, dude, if my partners get another piece." Like I brought a guy he's brand new to the game. He did 3 hours with me, and he got the
Oh,
piece,
no.
and I was like,
Always, dude.
"Holy cow, dude!" And then my other partner who had done it with me for a long time, Trisdane, he did 300. He did like 330 hours with me, mostly, and he got 2 pieces. So it's kind of
Wow.
like, I guess, a little trophy, kind of cool. But yeah, I'm 2 out of 5. I have learned the trade routes for the last 3 pieces I'm working on. I know the grind spots, I've done them. It's just a matter of getting lucky, because like Ash Forest is just a pain and it doesn't want to give it to me. And I've done like 140 hours there or something, which is like what a lot of people report. They do like they either get it when they first get there, or they get it within like 110, 120 hours. Olens is a mystery. I feel like they turned it off to make this race exciting for NAEU, for some of the streamers and community. Because like I used to see that thing drop a lot, and I haven't seen one drop in months, like the last 2 or 3 months, grinding nonstop, and nobody else has really seen it either. Which is weird. And then Crypt is we have some kind of idealistic average drop rates for Crypt, but
One
like,
thing
you know.
thing I hear is people think it drops from the mage. Everybody that Biohack knows who has it has gotten it from the mage. He's been
We've
pushing it
only
for
seen
hard.
drops from the mage. There's been
Yeah.
3 drops straight from the mage, as far as we know. It was said to drop from every mob there, but I'm guessing the intel everybody got was wrong. So
Well, all right.
Um,
Let me give some
yeah.
context for people who might not know what this is. You're going for the rich merchant ring, and what does that do for people? Like, why people go seek it?
So it's an item that's never been made. The only time it's ever been made across like NAEU and KR was a GM made it in North America to see what it did. Back in the day, before we had like a open kind of a freer market than we do now, you used to have like pre-order items and type in a code, so it would give you a higher probability of getting the pre-order. Now with the new tax system and the way that everything works, all it does is reduce your tax by about 5%. So on top of like the 84% you get with like a value pack and then like a common sale bonus and all that stuff, it'll add another like 4 to 5%. It's not 5% like additive straight on the dot, but it's like 5% of like the 84 or 90% that you're not getting prior to the value pack. It's such a math. It's about 4% once they add it all together, which would be really nice. And also, it's an item that hasn't been made. The only places it's been made is in KR. Or I'm sorry, it's not. It's been made in Russia, but I don't consider the Russia drops to be legitimate because we've known that they've had like higher drop rates, different trash per hour. Like their servers are very different than North America and EU and KR.
Bro,
So I don't really-
I asked Pearl Abyss, like, hey, like, does KR and Russia actually have different drop rates? And I thought this was a yes or no thing, but they're like, what grind spot you talking about, and like what class we talking about? I'm like, yeah, like, wait, why do those things have to do with any of this? This is kind of like I thought a yes or no. You telling me some spots
Yeah.
are different and some aren't different? Like, Wait, how much difference is there here?
Now, I've talked to some recent Russians who play on the new Russia server. Apparently, you had to migrate your account from the old Russia servers to the new ones, and the new ones are the like more legitimate PA ones that like I guess don't have the weird drop rate amounts. The
Mhm.
old like the way that they originally had Russia servers is you could pay like a value pack subscription to have the increased drop rates for all these different things. So as far as I know, that's not a thing anymore. But like back in the
Okay.
day, Russian videos were always making crazy trash per hour, and nobody knew why. And then someone talked to a Russian, and they're like, "Yeah, they get increased drop rates and stuff like that."
That
So
makes a lot of sense. I kind of want
yeah,
like we need to go look up when the new Russian servers went live so we can know at what point we can start trusting Russian trash loot videos.
yeah. Like I don't know if the other servers with the increased numbers are even live still, and I have no idea when the dates were. This
Yeah.
is someone who claimed they were a Russian player in my chat.
Well,
Again, I
that's
can't prove the legitimacy of it.
well,
It's
the
just
thing is
someone
like that's a
sharing.
lot better than what we have anyone on NA has to go off of because we don't play Russia, right? So
Mhm. Yeah,
it makes sense.
and also
Yeah.
it's an item that hasn't been made, so it's also got the vanity concept of rare. Apparently, they said in the patch notes for all the things that there's a lot of people that are close, which there are. There are people that only need one more piece, and they're gonna do like a world announcement across all the servers when the person gets it.
I think it's gonna be
Okay.
so cool that like someone's gonna get it in some region, and all servers are gonna get a notification that somebody made it in like Korea or EU or NA or whatever. And I think that's just gonna be so neat.
Yeah, it's actually really cool that they're
I
paying attention to that.
saw on Reddit, right, a couple days ago, a guy hit 4 out of 5 pieces. He got his crypt piece.
Yes, someone got the crypt piece. He did 90 hours. He's been one of my main competitors of people who have been doing this spot. He's been hitting it hard, and all he needs left is Olin's, just like all the EU people. There's 2 people in the EU that are 4 out of 5, and he is the only North American that is 4 out of 5 as far as we know.
Hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing like the race heat up a little bit. Hopefully, I wish you some good luck so you can have at least get another piece pretty soon, so you feel like you have a little bit better competition's sake.
Yeah, sitting at 2 out of 5 is like, oh, sitting at 3 would be like, okay, I kind of have a chance, and sitting at 2 is like rough because like my mentality was like the so far someone had claimed they knew the drop rates, and they told me them, and they're like, okay, well these are the more rare ones, so go for that. So I went for the hardest ones, quote unquote, what I thought first. So like I stopped doing Olin's back in the day to go do this, and now it's like, dang, dude, I wish I just would have stayed at Olin's forever because that is
Yeah.
the only piece everybody's been working on
Well,
hard. So
the Olin Valley piece is it's just like a whole other thing because the number of mobs you kill. So even if it had a good drop rate, like there's not a whole lot of mobs you're killing. So
yes, it has one of the higher drop rates, and you just are not killing mobs fast enough.
yep. Well, interesting. Let's jump into all right. Let's talk about this because we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast started, and I thought it was interesting. So we have the Q4 earnings report. Probus does this for their investors, so their investors can know to invest in their company or to bail out of their company. And this happens every quarter. This is based on business quarters, so Q4 ends around like the end of February or like maybe early March or something. I don't really know. This one came out, I believe it was like March 17th or something, a little before the NA or the Cacao to Probus transfer. But yeah, one of the cool things here is we see a lot of information on the inside. Like NA PC is their biggest moneymaker, and in that, well, I guess we should say more accurately, NAEU is their biggest moneymaker for PC. Mobile had like a huge drop off on it. I was like, I feel like overall, like mobile kind of died because of this went to pay to win is like what I've heard.
Yeah, mobile, I feel like in the beginning of your playing is like it can be pretty nice and profitable to pay to win. But like the thing about BDO is like the gear can last forever. Whereas in mobile, they've already gone through so many expansions within like just a year or two of playing the game that like the stuff it's too expensive. Like it's like old arcade prices where like it either becomes so expensive that it's not worth it, or they make it so that everybody can like afford it. So it like kills the game quicker. And I feel like it's the alternative. It's the prices are just too high, and you have to do it too often to make it worth it. So like if you're like some fat cat CEO that's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and you're like, oh, I'll dump a few thousand in this game, no big deal. But the average player just can't afford to keep up in that game for like the costs. Like I have a friend that's been playing it pretty actively, and like he's just gotten to the gear score that people were at prior to like the last 6 months of updates. And it's just like it's a fun game, and there's a lot of like mini game archetypes to it, and there's like a bunch of like catch up features and stuff, but it's just not rewarding for the dollar amount you're putting into it. It just costs way too much.
So the gear cycle is more like 6 months there instead of like 2 or 3 years like it is on PC.
They've been accelerating the gear cycle like crazy.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah, it's
oh
nuts.
my bad. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
So like when mobile first came out, it was really fun because it was pay to win, but it wasn't too over the top, right? So like it was me, we had like a streamer guild. It was like me, Morlin, Joe Never Fails, and a bunch of other people and some people from the community. And it was really fun, right? You could be free to play, but you had to keep yourself auto grinding, which wasn't a big deal, right? But because like if you put the time in, you could stay competitive. But then they did some crazy weird stuff where they like raised the gear cap past pin and added a bunch of levels past pin. And at that point, it became just like way too egregiously and pay to win. But like they had some really good like networks. So they had this system where, you know, let's say you're enhancing for Tet, you could throw in 100 sharps to increase your enhancement success rate higher than just using 1 sharp. Like, which is some cool stuff that would be pretty nice if it came to like
That would be
the regular servers.
Bro, I would just smash Tet crescent rings into other Tet crescent rings for really good odds. That would be incredible. Or like what would be what's the pain in the butt thing right now? Pin Blackstar. Yeah, I would just I guess what would you do? Have to do like 100?
You would
of
take
them?
like 100 mass of pure magics, so like the enhancing stones, and then just like smack 100 of them in there for like a couple percent increased success rate.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems like that'd be worth it though.
There's some really cool methods they have in the game for sure. The mobile's got just some really unique, cool things. I just think that it misses the thing that kind of keeps players attached to BDO. I mean, you have people that love doing stuff 24 hours a day. People like me that love grinding nonstop. There's people that love life skilling nonstop, and the game lets you auto do that, so it eliminates the like. There's no extra reward for doing it actively. You actually are less efficient than the computer because the computer auto grinds like faster. Like it literally is stronger and faster than you. Yeah, you're not there to pick up all the loot and stuff like that, but like it's just better than you. And the same thing for gathering. It auto pass to the next closest gathering target, so it's just immediately faster rather than wandering around. And so when you have a computer that auto runs the game faster than you, there's no way you want to play it, therefore you're not playing it. Never makes it easier to not do your like regular login activities, which eliminates again the thing that people like play this game for is to constantly actively do that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like sort of like if AFK fishing got to the point where 16 hours of AFK fishing was better than 8 hours of grinding, then people would just stop kind of doing it.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, for BDO, which is like I think why they haven't enabled like an auto grinding feature, because they like the current, I guess, AFK activities, and if they were to make AFK grinding, I feel like the game would be just a lot of bots running around, and that would be very boring. If people like botting to then, you know, do something nefarious with the account later on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see how that'd be bad, and plus that would undermine the current like AFK systems to have, unless it was like incredibly bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I guess it kind of makes sense why mobile's fallen off, but I was still surprised to see it like right in the data that NAEU Black Desert makes up 43% of the entire company's revenue, like the entire Pearl Abyss as a company, their revenue, 43% of it comes from PC NAEU Black Desert, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, you got a lot of people getting these stimulus that don't necessarily need it, like some of the other people, like here in America, right? So you got a lot of people that are getting like ridiculous amounts of money.
How many crowns can I buy with $1,400?
And you, quite literally, I know people that have done exactly that. It's crazy.
I believe it. Yeah, one thing that I thought was really interesting about this quarter 4 is not. I obviously the money side of it is interesting. I was interested more on the developer side, and they said in their quarter 3 earnings report that basically half of all their developers are on Crimson Desert. So in this, they actually list their total number of developers overall, and if we assume that it's still half the developers are in Crimson Desert, that would be 308 developers, or no, 358 developers out of 716. That'd be exactly half are on Crimson Desert. And then we also have to assume there's also Eve Online, which was 300 employees total, and so that's probably about 200, maybe 150 to 200 developers. And if you subtract that from the remaining amount, you're down to around 200 developers. And then you have mobile, you have Shadow Arena, you have Dookie V and Plan 8. So I mean, I assume Dookie V and Plan 8 just don't have any developers now at all. And Shadow Arena definitely only has like 20 or something, not that much. But that still remains like there's probably like 150 developers only on Black Desert, despite it bringing in the majority of its income.
Yeah, feels bad.
Yeah, it just seems like 150 to maybe 250. I mean, if we're generous, but it's still like a really, really low percentage of, even though it's the majority of the income is gained, the minority of the resources, which seems maybe that'll get readjusted a little bit going forward. But that was like one of the big things that was take away here. They also there's a voice call that they have that is all in Korean. So I scanned through a couple of the people who listened to it and translated it into English. And the highlights of it were they were still working on a 10v10 arena, and their Pearlbus is focused on PvP content for the first quarter of 2021, which is what we're in right now. First quarter is like March, April, May, and then like maybe a little bit of June. So I kind of expect that we're going to get all the PvP changes they've been working on really, really soon, within the next month, because they didn't mention anything in the keynote about the dungeon, about new classes or a new season or anything like that. So although those things are still in the works, obviously, from Pearl Abyss, it seems like the next thing we're probably getting is most likely to be PvP in nature.
Awesome.
Which I guess if you look at Global Labs, like Global Labs definitely kind of mirrors that. We're getting a lot of class PvP changes, so it makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at it. And I thought that was pretty interesting. They put like the self-published NAEU on the 25th of February. Obviously, they hit that. They said, yeah, PvP content development for online PC version. So I guess that'll be interesting to see. And then they said new pipelines. They were trying to focus on Crimson Desert story and show people or disclose new content and increase global marketing. And then work on their new IPs, Doke V and Plan 8.
Yeah, in the conference call, one of the questions that one of the big investors asked was like they're concerned that all their of meeting a deadline for Crimson Desert, and then they're also like if Dookie V and Plan 8 are getting enough resources, which Pearlbus didn't really comment on, which makes it seem like Crimson Desert is going to be extremely rushed, and they're probably going to have to push back because the initial plan was Dookie V, I think 2023. Crimson Desert's 2022, and then Plan 8 is 2024. I think was like basically one game a year. But I think that seems like that's not going to be realistic anymore. Anyway, it's interesting. I think if you're interested in that, we might be able to, I'll have a link to it down in the description of the YouTube video that we have later on, so you can look for it there. Is there anything else you guys thought was interesting from the quarter 4 stuff?
I think that about touches up on it for me.
I mean, I'm not surprised that NA is still the top, but because I don't know, like you would hear from any group of like online forum complainers, like people say that the people in KR are like, oh, well, KR's dead, nobody's playing it. Like you hear the same thing about NA people. Like there's people on Reddit that still think that BDO's dead. So it's like, but like the price, like the quarter earnings, like feel like, like I mean, if there aren't really any Koreans buying or playing the game, then it does feel like it's not really. Well, I don't know. It just is interesting.
I think another cool thing about this is that this was underneath Kakao Games publishing. This was before Pearlbus self-published. So, I'm really curious what's going to look like in the follow-up if it's increased or decreased revenue based on the Pearlbus management. Because I think I mean, Kakao Games had a lot of faults, but I think they did a really solid job. Like we've had Twitch drops twice now for this arena tournament, and the majority of people didn't even know it was happening. Where
Yeah.
Pearl Abyss, like I mean, Kakao Games was like front page, everybody knew it was happening, planned out, coordinated, and then, the
Yeah.
viewers responded to that a lot. So
I feel like they both have their goods and their bads, right? So like one of the
Yeah.
biggest glaring weaknesses from Pearl Abyss is that the ticketing system nowadays, good luck. If you get a reply from a ticket that's not automated, you're lucky, because their ticket response system is not very good. And they've also taken the stance that even if you lose a crystal due to lag, they will not replace your crystals. I think that's stupid. Like that makes no sense. But then there's some other things that kind of makes it feel like, okay, maybe things could move into a better direction with them, like at least give you the illusion that they're trying to be more transparent and like communicate more with us. They doing the Arena of Arsha tournaments. Hopefully it becomes something that they do repetitively, even if it's not that, just some like more community events and things like that. But I definitely don't think that Kakao was all to blame. I think there's going to be some good and bad with either side.
yeah,
You
I
one
think
thing,
that
Kakao did replace crystals, right? It was like you get one crystal
Yeah.
replacement per year or something like that.
yeah, they did.
So we'll have to see. I mean, maybe it's too early to judge between Pearl Abyss and Kakao Games, and usually time tells with that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that Pearl Abyss is still trying to get their grips. They have a whole new team, right? Like, I mean, they've got some people with experience. They've had some people transfer over, but like one person can't carry a whole team of people answering tickets and stuff nonstop and doing media events and stuff like that for the NA stuff. And I feel like they're still just trying to get the grip. And I think that won't say. I don't feel like they've had a moment to settle down because it's been nonstop events from like KR moving to NA and then them having to be on top of everything like that. Like, it's gonna be interesting seeing the like next 6 months of what happens, because this first like few months has been like, oh hey, here's all these events and here's all these Pearl Shop deals and here's all this stuff for like the anniversary and the like, the switch over and all this stuff, and kind of curious to see what it's gonna lead into.
I've started noticing a lot of peer-to-peer issues where it takes me a long time to load in. When I'm trying to like load in a game, it'll take like, I don't know, a minute before everything's loaded in. So like bells won't show up immediately, other characters don't show up immediately. I've had a lot of issues with that recently, and I had to go back to using what I use Mudfish, what I use as like a VPN to kind of like get around that. But have you guys experienced any connection issues recently?
Yeah, I've had some ISP issues, so I can't really comment.
I'm not sure. I definitely have had a lot more crashes lately when like changing characters, but I don't know if it's like, I can't for sure say that it's more or less than before. I'm not too sure. But it's definitely a little slowed down than it was at first, because like I remember when we first got the transfer, the dice game was like instant. As soon as you click the dice, now the delay is back. That's one thing that I have noticed.
Yep. Yeah, it's like a little slower now. It gives you like a little white screen and it loads for a second and then it's like in. I think it's peer-to-peer issues. I think it's anything where you're trying to make a new connection to the game. That's my theory on it, at least, and I don't really know how to prove it. So it'll just stay a theory forever because I don't know how to test peer-to-peer. Anyway, hopefully this is like something that it's just this week. I noticed it about 2 weeks ago. When they did I noticed it the week before the escape changes. Like the escape was when I started getting a lot of complaints about it. I started hearing a lot of complaints about it, but I noticed it about a week beforehand. I forget what they did. But yeah, when they did the Tuesday maintenance or Monday maintenance instead of Wednesday, that's when I felt like it started getting a lot more of those problems. So I don't know. Hopefully they work on it. We'll see. Global Lab changes. You want to talk about Global Lab or patch notes?
Let Blonde decide. I'm cool with either. We'll talk about both of them, but
That phase.
Well, I don't know anything about Global Labs, so I mean, I'd like to listen to you guys talk about it. My stance on Global Lab is just like I said earlier. Like, there's so many things that don't come to life, and people beg where it's at, and it's like I can't stand that people can't. Like, I get that not everybody's on top of every KR patch note and every like Global Lab patch note, into NAEU patch notes and SCA, all that. But like, I hate like the fake hype, so I just stay away from it unless it's on an official patch page. I don't consider it.
I can definitely
Live.
see where you're coming from because there's a lot of stuff that they introduced to Global Lab that you're like, holy shit, dude, please give me that. Like the Global Lab loot tracker where like you can turn the
Yes.
timer on and it will calculate, it'll add up all the items you loot for the next hour and literally give you your silver per hour that you made, or like this new loot scroll system that they added in back in November that we're still waiting on. So I can definitely see where you're coming from, honestly.
Yeah, well, because then players beg for that, and they're like, PA sucks, so you're not giving us the thing we want. It's like, well, I mean, they don't think it's good for their game. Like, so they probably calculated out, well, is it better to let people pause their loot scrolls or to let them burn it and buy another one?
One thing I think has been interesting is what they're not putting on Global Lab. Like, they're not putting the dungeon stuff up on there. They're not really teasing any of that. They're keeping it underneath wraps. They're not putting the snow region like stuff.
Kind
on
of
there.
glad. I don't want any new content out there because the problem with like for at least NAEU has been everything's been out on KR forever, and it's by the time we get it, everybody's experienced it or seen it in some way, shape, or form. So there's no surprise. Like the big thing was getting away from the gap from KR to get away from this, like so we would have surprises, something new in the game. So I'm kind of glad they don't put anything onto Global. Like yeah, it might be horrible when it comes live, but at least it's something new and fresh instead of like, hey, you've seen this for like 6 months and now you're finally getting it and it's boring.
Especially with like a dungeon type thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to optimize before it comes out. Like, how boring would that be?
Like, if you have mechanics, like actual mechanics that you have to do and they're kind of hidden, it would suck if it was just completely solved, you know, by the time it came to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to get a YouTuber that goes through all in the first week, you're going to have a YouTuber, hey, here's all the tips and tricks for the new Ataraxia dungeon. Step on this, press this, do that. So like
Chris Polly.
There's gonna be a video where they optimize it and put it out there for anyways. But at least you have the option of like experiencing it, or like you know, it's people optimize the fun of everything. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. But
yeah,
at least you have the illusion of like mystery.
One thing that I'm really interested about is, well, I guess let me go back to that. I think it's a really good point that they are not putting out new content on there. I feel like Sage not being on Global Lab was a really good choice. And I feel like that's what they should probably be doing for future stuff, like you said. Like, I think Global Lab's a really good place. Like, hey, we got some balance changes here. What do you think of those? I think that's a really good place for that. And then that kind of bounces off the player base. The player base either gets enraged or they're happy about it. And it kind of it's almost like an invisible two-way conversation that keeps going back, because they can be like, oh, you didn't like those the node word changes? Well, no problem. Those are going into the game. They just want to see, you know. And I think that's much better for balancing the game rather than new content, because new content comes out, it might be good, it might be bad, and then you balance that content, you know, after people have enjoyed it a little bit around the Global Lab, and I think that's more appropriate. So. Speaking of Global Lab, though, we're talking about the new class PvE buffs. They have a huge patch. They said they're going to be giving us this big patch on May 26th with everything they've been doing on Global Lab recently. We'll see exactly how much everything includes. But the big thing this week is they gave huge PvE class buffs. So every class, aside from like Striker Succession, I think got a PvE buff. Like just about every class. I guess.
Yeah, I think Strikers suck and Awakened Nova. Pretty sure those are the two that didn't get touched.
And that pretty much makes sense, because both of those classes are extremely strong in PvE, given they're in the right hands. What's your favorite class you got buffed, Kerr?
Honestly, one of the best ones that I like personally was that Ranger got some love. Ranger's one of those classes over the couple years that have had so many ups and downs, where like anytime Ranger becomes good, she gets smacked down like 2 weeks later. So I'm hoping that these changes that they've done, they gave some buffs to both Succession and Awakening. The Succession changes look a bit bigger than Awakening because Awakening got her little PvE love like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the Succession buffs do look pretty big. They raised the damage of a couple of their core skills by a pretty fat chunk. Added 40% crit rate in PvE and 50% crit rate to 2 of the abilities, and lowered the cooldown. And they also added this weird little mechanic that I don't really understand how it works. I haven't yet tried it, but it seems to be like they summon these 2 little fairy spirit things on the side of them, and so whenever they use select abilities, those little fairies will also attack with them. So it's like it seems to be like extra damage. Yeah, it literally looks like Rudan's Hurricane from League of Legends.
That's sick.
It's pretty cool, and they added like a little video. They showed a video with it, and it's like when you use Penetrating Wind, Tearing Arrow, and Razor Wind, these little like Rudan Hurricane-esque spirits will spawn, and they'll shoot extra shots with you. So I'm hoping that kind of gives Rangers some love, kind of brings her back into prevalence again.
I need to know if they're scaling off Rangers AP and accuracy. That's what I need to know. If they're not scaling off Rangers AP and accuracy and are on like this pet meta thing, I'm going to be pissed.
Is it pet meta or not?
Yeah, if they count as summons, they're probably pretty booty. But we take what you can get, dude.
True. I'm curious if it'll act like how Archer there's like some ability that says they just get extra attacks done to them every time. Like there's like the passive debuff where they just take extra attacks and extra damage based on the ability they use. Curious if it works like that. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of adding a mechanic to it is pretty good. I don't think I'm ever going to be happy with Succession Ranger. Not because it won't be good in PvE or they can't buff or something, but my original fantasy of Ranger's main hand was just like Will of the Wind, Blasting Gust, Shotgun, like all these skills that kind of moved your character around a little bit. And Succession just like did everything that I didn't like about the class, like Descending Current or whatever it's called. Like all the skills that you just stand still and you don't play your class, they just fire for you.
You get a turret.
Yeah, I'm just a turret that occasionally walks to a new location and plants myself.
Dude, Descending Current is such like a nostalgic skill for me though, because like so before the server merge I played on Uno, and on Uno we had like Barcode and Black Rose, and some of those guilds, and the meta back then was to just run like 40 or 50 Rangers in your guild and spam Descending Current from outside the base, because Descending Current it was really good back then because we didn't have any, like, people didn't really play frontline classes as much on our server, so like Ranger was the way to go. So they would just Descending Current and cannon spam outside the base, and it was so good. It was like the scene from 300, right, where like the big wall of arrows just come through, and it was like the meta, and like so that ability always kind of has like a spot in my heart, even if I don't play Ranger. It just reminds me of the olden times.
Dude, I when you watch those old videos where they're battling on Sassen's Garrison, and there's just like 50 players and everybody has their own like miniature 1v1 duel on this giant battlefield, it's like so crazy nostalgic to like back then. It's nuts. I watch a Lakari video occasionally where I'm watching them fight on Sassen's, and like just watching people survive in this like massive firefight is just crazy. And I've actually been doing tier 1 Node Wars, and it brings a little bit of that feeling back when you play like the lower capped scores, where it's like you just have a ton of people fighting like nonstop. Not everybody's getting one comboed, and it feels like a real battlefield. It's very fun, very fun.
Yeah, I've been watching those a little bit too with because like Moreland does a couple every week, and they looked. I mean, it does kind of look like that's really where the PvP at and has been for a while, right? Even though they do some weird shit like the HP cap thing.
Yeah, they cap weird. All the stats in a weird way, which removes like the whole point of like playing some classes that have extra HP. Cough, Zerker, cough.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like at the start, like you'll see Zerkers like smashing people and like warriors and all these other classes that do really well with high HP and they're bruiserish. And then like once the HP gets cut after like there's like 2 or 3 ticks of HP and everybody's at like half HP. That's when like Lon and Ninja and stuff like that becomes crazy, because at that point like you can just burst people down.
Yeah. Tier 1 Node Wars has been an interesting journey.
I feel like what they should be doing over time is one of two factors. One, respawn timers should get longer, just like League of Legends does. And a second, healing abilities should be decreased. So you get like 25% healing, then 50% less healing, then 75% less healing, then no healing. And so then you're scaling both those as time goes on, and it kind of just forces the game to end because everybody just can't heal and just dying, you know? And you have longer respawn timers, and that would just require the game would maybe this is one dude who survives the entire battle and he's just pounding away at the other guy's base, you know, but at least something's happening, you know, progress is being made.
So you think like cooldown or respawn timers should be tied to how much you die as an individual player instead of like the timer of the node, basically?
I think a little bit of both. I don't know. I mean, it'd require playtesting, but anything's better right now than reducing your HP. Reducing maximum HP is the most silly mechanic in the world because that doesn't fix the healing problem. That doesn't fix the low respawn counts. It doesn't really fix any of those issues. It just exacerbates.
It nerfs some classes
Yeah.
while keeping some strong.
And on top of that, it's the least fun part of the game. The least fun part of the game is like dying more often. That's the least fun part. The most fun part is like barely surviving, going away for like 2 minutes and healing back up. You know, like that's the fun part is like surviving and doing something in the game. So I do think right now that tier ones are probably the best, and I think that's one because of the nerf stats. So it's but I think the main reason is just that siege guilds can't go in there and place. Like if you go into tier ones right now, you're not getting crushed by like Black Rose or anything. Or if you place on tier 3s, 2s, or 4s, like there's going to be somebody from a siege guild there who's just going to take a stomp on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, they also did some really weird changes in the buffs on the global labs as well. They buffed Succession Lawn, who has for the past like year been arguably second or third best PvE grind class in the game.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. I don't know why they did that. They added a 25% increased crit rate to Blooming Netherflower, which the ability is already strong enough. If you center the spins on back attacks, you can like one skill orc pack, like a pack of orcs with that ability. Like it's such a strong skill. I'm not sure why they did that, but they did do some really good changes. They buffed Awakening Sork's PvE, or not Awakening Sork, but Awakening Lawn's PvE.
I'm a huge fan of that. That's the
And
class.
a lot of people complained for sure that they couldn't grind with Awakened Lawn as good and be able to defend their spot. So that's pretty big. Like they increased a lot of abilities by like 150%.
150%?
Yeah. So like her fervor got 150% basically increased damage, like 140%. But I just
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
you're talking about
thousands of
percentage.
damage.
You're talking about
Yeah, like
percent, not like percent.
1,000.
Yeah.
Not
not the overall. I'm talking about the damage percentage of the skill.
Oh,
Yeah, it's overall it's like a 10% increase to the skill.
Okay,
and they
yeah.
added extra hits to it. It's probably gonna end up being
all
around.
right, I understand now. I was a little afraid. I was like, what are they doing? Oh, they
Like,
created a
what?
monster.
Yeah, the modifier on the skill itself got increased by 200% and added extra hits. Not like you know, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you. Well,
Yeah.
I like this. I'm a little concerned that they're just trying to make it even with Succession, and I don't know if it was better to do that. I kind of feel like a middle ground where you nerf Succession a little bit and you buff Awakening a little bit probably would have been a little better. But I'll take what I can get, and this seems like a solid change to Awakening Lawn. And I don't think there's gonna be anybody in the video community who's gonna be mad about it.
I think it's fine. This is one of those things where like I do be having a double standard sometime where I'm like, okay, I don't think just because a class is good at PvP means it should be bad at PvE, which is, I mean, that's a fact, right? Like just because a class is good at PvE doesn't mean it should be bad at PvP and vice versa. So I think it's okay that they're making, you know, trying to make Awakened Lawn a viable grind opportunity or grind choice if you don't want to grind on Succession.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the concept of I'm like half and half with you there because like I like the idea of like the best PvP spec also being the best PvE spec makes it so that you're only ever playing something just for looks and not for performance, which some people do, but at the same time, like it still has to be close enough, right? I feel like if
Mhm.
you have like a really good PvP spec for like 1v1s or just open world, and then you've got another one that just isn't doing what it needs to do, having maybe the PvE be like 90 or 80% effectiveness compared to the other one, so that hey, you're taking the sacrifice, but you're ready for any fight possible, right? But you know, when you have players that are looking and analyzing their trash per hour, it's like, well, I made 5,600 and I made 5,400, so I gotta only play the class that makes me 5,600, and it's like, so please buff it. It's like I'm like, I don't know.
I think
I think you should be making sacrifices to be ready to
to be
overworld
fair
fight
though,
at any
the difference
time.
in trash on lawn was a lot more significant than what you just said there, right?
True, yeah. That's what I agree with. I think that, like I said, 80 to 90 effectiveness would be fine, but like when you're talking about anything larger than that, which that obviously was, that's why I'm totally fine with buffs like that. It's just like once it gets
Yeah.
too close, it's like, what's the sacrifice other than like just looks? Which looks for some people go a long way, but not everybody. Like people will
Sure.
always optimize that fun out and always choose whatever's the best, even if it's by 1%.
I think a lot of players aren't even good enough though to notice the difference. To be fair, like
Yeah,
I mean,
they only notice on that 1 hour where they're sweating, and then every other hour where they're casually grinding, it's not even making a difference
yeah, exactly.
for most classes.
So like so this thing has been a bunch of good and a bunch of weird. They also continued the like month-long streak of buffing Dark Knight and Mystic, who seem to be like the new poster girls for BDO.
Well, to be fair, the
Um,
last DK update, like it didn't put it into a top grinder. Like it still was below average with DK Awakening at least. On DK Succession, I don't know what they did. They're smoking mushrooms or I don't know. They're doing something crazy. Like they're getting something all out of order.
Because like before the changes, Suck DK was comfortably in the middle of the pack in terms of like PvE output, and then in like PvP, she did really really good damage because of her insanely high innate accuracy modifiers. But you know they've been doing a lot of changes over the course of the past couple weeks, right? Like adding super armor to the Twilight Dash. One of their iframes, they kind of increased how long it goes at the end of it, so it's not as big of a gap when chaining it with another iframe. And they increased some PvP damage of some abilities. Well, this week they followed up with giving Awakening like a damage increase on 8 abilities
For PvE, right?
in PvE. Yeah, increasing the PvE damage of like 8 abilities. And Succession, they increased the damage of one of their abilities and increased the crit rate to 2 of the abilities as well.
Only one that I thought was a little weird for DK Awakening was Shattering Darkness and Bombardment. That skill was already doing a lot of damage, and getting an additional damage increase I thought was kind of uncalled for. But the other ones that they did were like Forward F, your new Awakening ability, like those, and it had one that literally did like no damage, it was like modifier like 400, so now it's like 900, which is still trash. Don't, but at least it like if you accidentally use it as a new player, it's not going to be complete garbage now. And so I think that aside from those two, I feel like all the other ones were just like underperforming skills that gotta raise, and I think that this will make it where anybody who wants to play DK Awakening now won't feel like they're getting punished for doing so. And I don't think this is going to make it OP. I don't think so.
Nah, I don't think it will either. I don't want to hear any more complaining from the DK community after all these strings of fucking buffs, dude.
Yo,
There's no way.
I'm sorry, but they're just like Rangers. They're going to complain. Like, if you ask, like, you give Ranger a buff and they're like, how's it feel? They're like, my back attacks. Oh, bro, my back attacks. And like, you're just like, what about the buffs? They're like, well, you know, that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for we told them the problem with back attacks. And
Yeah.
And I think at this point we have to just accept that back attacks are like not going to happen for ranged enemies, because Provis thinks that ranged enemies, the uniqueness of a ranged class is no back attacks. I don't know why they decided that was the unique factor for ranged classes, but it's the same thing on the Musa Meiwa bow. It's the same thing on Archer, and the same thing on Ranger. All 4 of them have the same issue now. They're all 4 have bows. And it's only on Musa and Meiwa for their bow skills. So it's like they intentionally went out of the way to make it broken on the one skill that was a bow skill for both those. And like, I feel like at this point they want to do that. And I think the Rangers and Archers need to say, well, if you're not giving us back attacks, then we need X amount more damage to be effective in PvE. And that I think would be a fair compromise then, other than just keep on asking for the same thing that apparently won't ever happen. I don't know. Anyway, that was my rant on that. Sorry.
Yeah. And then like with Mystic is gonna be it's probably gonna be a really strong class at this point, dude. I don't see how it's not, because they did the buffs like 3 weeks ago, where they on Global Labs they increased the damage across the board for like awakening abilities and PvP by like 20 or 30% on the majority of the abilities. This was for Succession. And then for Awakening, they increased Wave Orb damage by 30% and a couple other abilities by 20% in PvP. And then last week, was it last week or the week before that, where they increased the PvE damage? So now they followed that up with another string of buffs to both Mystic, Awakening, and Succession this week. So I think Mystic's going to be really strong, dude.
How big was the
especially
buffs this
Succession
week?
Mystics? The buffs this week were, so they increased the crit rate of a couple abilities. They increased the damage modifiers for 3 or 4 abilities by 200% of the skill's damage modifier, and raised another ability from 25% crit to 50%. So they were pretty steady buffs added on top of the stuff they've already done over the last couple weeks.
I think at the very least, this makes it a contender for any grind spot. And, no one will be able to say it's underpowered anymore, which I do think was true for kind of both forms for a long time. I feel like ever since Succession came out, everybody just kind of ignored Mystic and was like, well, it used to be good. But now I play Guardian or whatever.
Yeah, Mystic used to be the old tried and true, right? Like all the people that wanted to be super try hard had a Mystic for Histria, like an Awakened Mystic. And like if you were a Striker, you definitely had to play Mystic, because Striker was like really, really bad back then. But it's kind of interesting to see how like the tables have turned over the years. But maybe this will bring her back into contention for people that are just like diehard Mystics,
What does Zerker get?
The Zerker buffs were pretty decent for Succession. The Zerker ones actually made sense. It was one of the only ones, the buffs that like made perfect sense. So they said in the blue text with Zerker that they wanted to give him a variance in play. So instead of just the spin to win, they buffed some of his other abilities so that they do pretty good damage to be comparable to the spin to win.
Which might be massive, because the thing with Zerker or Succession is that like your big thing is you're buffing up and you're just spinning, and then you're walking to the next pack, buff up and spin, and you don't have any variance in your playstyle. The only thing you have is if both of your spins are on cooldown and you have nothing else going on, you use your 2 like moved over awakened abilities, and then basically you're just spamming FD. So like that's all you can really do for Succession to try and pull any more trash.
So when you say variance, are you saying the Awakening will play differently than Succession, or are you saying?
So basically the idea is that with Zerker, it was kind of just like Blonde Bear said, buffing yourself with Frenzy Destroyer, like given for the AP buff, and then debuffing the mobs and just spinning. Right, that was like the way to go. That's all you do. So they buffed some other abilities like Fearsome Tyrant, Beastly Wind Slash, Feral Rage, Feral Stampede, stuff like that, and added some crit rate, increased the crit rate of Fearsome Tyrant to 100% in PvE, added DR Shred to Beastly Wind Slash, and added crit to Prime Devastation. So basically they want to make it so you don't just have to only spin, right? It'll be viable to do other things than spin. And I actually like this change because it's like, it makes sense, right?
Well, best case scenario is what's going to add is it's the spin's always going to be strong, and now just everything in between now does more damage, so our clear will be better.
Yeah, so if you have
that sounds really nice.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. This one makes sense.
The spin bot, it's been capped by the spin. You can't go any faster because when the spin's on cooldown, like the spin only does so many hits, and once you're done, you're just waiting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really what I think that's been like the really thing holding back because you might have like 3 mobs that are low health, and you're like, what do I do?
You're like, what do I do? Yeah, you spam an ability that on cooldown has way more reduced damage, which is your Frenzy Destroyer.
Yep.
Like you have to spam an ability that isn't supposed to be spammed because it's all you've got, and you can't do anything else. It's actually so sick. I like that. Kind of excited.
Did it do anything for Awakening Zerker?
The Feral Stampede and Feral Rage, those will apply for Awakening as well. The increased crit as well on Feral Stampede. Something about Elastic Force, but I don't really understand. I think that's like a weird translation. I didn't really notice that ability.
Maybe Ancient Power.
And then they improved the way that like Frenzy Destroyer links with other skills, so it's more smoother. I don't really understand. I haven't tested that myself to understand, but apparently they said it's been approved to allow additional connections. So the way I understand it is you'll be able to better
Flow things.
flow things better. So
It can
I don't
be
know
really
how big of a
clunky.
difference it is, but yeah.
Should be awesome.
Huh. Well, seems like a lot of good changes.
Yeah, dude. Let's go.
The one I was interested in, I like DK, which we talked about. I liked. I'm checking my list here. Lon, Warrior, I think is going to be an absolute monster. Warrior Succession, because they made a change to his Lingering Crit, so now you can choose the Succession ability, and you also get the Lingering Crit, which is a huge buff to PVE. And then this week they gave additional buffs to PVE Succession Warrior, and he's already like arguably a low tier S tier. So I think he's just gonna. I think he's gonna be. I think Merlin won't be able to reroll to Sage or anything else because Warrior's gonna be so good.
He's just gonna want to play Warrior more, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I have to tease him because in EU yesterday, a Succession Warrior actually won the finals for the AOA tournament.
Nice.
Yeah, a Succession Warrior actually won the finals.
I bet he was pulling some cheesy stuff.
He was doing some kind of crazy weird combo that like I didn't understand at first, but then it sort of made sense once Chad explained it to me.
We'll have to get Merlin to fill us in on the details next week. He'll break it all down to us. Well, it's because of this skill goes into that skill, and like the mobility goes into whatever, and he can backward spin / whatever. One of the classes. Oh yeah, I'm really excited for Musa and Ninja. That was the big one here. Crosscut got a buff on Ninja, or on Musa Awakening, and they also buffed Executioner, which is his new Awakening ability, and they buffed Below the Belt, which I thought Crosscut was the main thing I really wanted here. Executioner I thought did low damage, but combos really well from Crosscut. So I think this is going to be the thing that Musa finally needs to go into being a meta class again. Like I think people are going to get. I think you're still going to need a little bit more gear than you want at a grind spot, but I think he's going to pull some crazy trash numbers because he'll be able to have all that speed finally and the power to go with it. And so I think he's going to really push some really good numbers at like Sakurai and Stars In that are going to make people like really mouth water over it and want to play it a little bit. So
especially like he keeps getting a lot of incremental buffs as well, right? Because like they did the big round of Musa buffs like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then they're giving him these. So I think like if they give him, if this trend continues where they're like buffing these like 3 or 4 classes that get buffed consistently, I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up really high, or like really high up there, or at least somewhere in the middle of the pack. Because once you get the Elvia weapons, right, it becomes about AoE and like mobility. And I mean, Musa has both of those decently enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd imagine like after these crosscut buffs and some more stuff, if they kind of like do some more tweaks and such, I'd imagine he'd be pretty decent at Elvia. But
well, I'll say his Crush Crusher into Foul Play does the most damage of any combo that I've ever used at Mirmok. And I've grinded with a lot of classes at Mirmok. That ability, but I mean, it is on like a 17-second cooldown or something ridiculous. But it does it's worth having that long cooldown because it's a very, very powerful ability. So I feel like people are going to, if they can utilize that when they have like a huge pull at a mob pack, I think that's going to expedite. And the main problem I had on Musa personally was like after I used all my abilities, I'm like, what do I do? I got nothing to do. And so I was just kind of stuck doing nothing. And I think this crosscut will be like that, kind of like the catalyst that makes it where when you get all your abilities and the mob has a sliver of health, you can clean them up and then move to the next pack. And I think it's going to be really huge for him. I think it's going to be really nice. And then the other one was Ninja. Ninja got some AoE increases which I guess I'll tie really well into Tamer after this.
Ninja got the dream buffs that all Tamers and Kunos wanted, bro. Little damage increase, AoE size increase. Oh, fuck, dude.
Now, you said that you're really excited because they keep you doing these incremental buffs. Like, why if they give Tamer some more incremental buffs next week?
Because the problem is they're buffing weird stuff. So with Tamer, they buffed Moonlight Strike, which is a mobility dash skill, which you would, if you use it in PvE, it would more be to like apply add-ons, and Garuda, which is like you just use the ability for magic DP shred. But in most cases, most Tamers are going to use like Flash or Flash and Jolt Stab because it's just much faster than switching over to Awakening just to do Garuda. But I don't know. Incremental buffs are nice, but they really have to be meaningful buffs, right? It would be like if on Sork they made it so another ability is like a super armor in PvE or something, which could be decent and it could make sense, but it's like it's not really increasing your output, right?
What ability on Tamer needs to be bigger AoE or more damage? Like, what would, if you were in charge, right, and you could do anything, what would you change about Tamer?
Dude, honestly, I think Tamer is a little too far gone.
No. You are in control now, Kerr.
Literally, hold on. Listen. The only thing that could literally save Tamer is a complete kit rework.
Oh, you just change everything?
That is quite possibly the only thing that could save Tamer. That, and if they changed it to make summons actually scale with your AP. If summons scaled with your AP and you could actually get full damage out of Hei Lang, that would be pretty big. Because for PvE, yes, for PvE, PvP, whatever, but PvE, like we could touch PvP later, but make it so that summons and PvE actually scale with your AP would be huge. Like that would be massive.
Including accuracy or not including accuracy?
Like you wouldn't even have to add in the accuracy. Just let them have the current accuracy that they have, right? Which is like 50% base or whatever. Just make them actually scale with your AP instead of doing the same damage as a 200 AP Tamer, you know?
Yeah. I find that just so odd. It's like, how do you end up balancing something when you have a whole part of the ability doing such little damage? It's like, because then you have to buff the front end, which, like, why not just have the pet have equalized damage and then just buff the numbers there or fix them? Like, I don't know. I don't know coding, right? So what do I know? But it just seems so odd to have the layers of numbers we have on everything in this game. And I get they want it all to be a mystery, but like it's what's made the game so hard for them to balance, because we can't say, hey, change this or that by 5 or 10%, because it's gonna like change everything like across the board.
Well, I feel like
the way they've got it designed.
I don't feel like the solution is that hard. Like, you just reduce pets damage by 66%, then uncap the AP limit so they scale with your AP, and then bam, it's fixed. You know, like that's the fix. And maybe
I mean, they could like flush out the exact numbers eventually, but it's like, it makes sense that like a character that probably gets like 30% of their damage from the pet, or the pet is supposed to make up a decent bit of the kit, because the pet used to be really strong.
Yeah.
Like back when people only had 200 AP or 160 AP, it was really strong because it had its own scaling. But it doesn't really stand the test of time nowadays,
No, sadly.
So who knows, maybe
reminds me of Sork Manian before we had Awakening. The most fun thing I had recently in memory for Tamer is I rode my Tamer around and I killed mains on the back of Helyang. I didn't know that was not how you're supposed to play Tamer, but that's how I leveled my Tamer up to like level 45, was just going at mains at level like 10 and then just stood there forever killing mains with Helyang.
Dude, I wish whenever they announced like Tamer Succession, I was like, holy shit, dude, they're going to make it so that Helyang mounted combat is viable. It's like a thing. And I was so hyped for it that it came out. I'm like, what is this? Why? Dude, that would have been such a cool thing if you could if they made the Helyang mounted combat a thing. It would have been really nice. At least that's what I was hoping for. But yeah. Enough of the tamer. The Kuno also got kind of shafted too. Like
Kuno Waking is in a good spot though, damage wise.
I don't think so, dude. I don't think so.
Bro, she does some really
I
dirty
don't
damage,
think
right?
So like there was a point where if a Kuno was spinning in front of you, like in PvP, if a Kuno was spinning in front of you, you just ignore her. Or if you got close to her, you were just dead. But nowadays, she hasn't really like stood the test of time. You know,
think in
She's kinda like,
PvE or PvP?
I mean, honestly, I kind of feel a little in both. Like, have you seen the absurdly low numbers that Kunos get in like pretty much all spots?
I played my Kuno here at Mirmok, and I found the damage fairly impressive. I just found her mobility is extremely frustrating. I was like, she has one mobility combo where you have to chain like 6 different mobility skills, and if you do them out of order, it doesn't work. You have to do them in the precise order that some developer 30 years ago, thought of in his basement. Like, this is the way to do it. If you do it any other way, it ain't working. And like, it's just frustrating. So I ended up just doing like my forward dash and like my forward F occasionally, and that's my movement speed buff, and that's it. I don't know any of their fancy stuff.
Like I could see her being decent at Miramok, but in terms of like actual in-game spots, like if we're talking about Hadoom orcs, we're talking about even places like underwater, right? Abyssal Sacria, which is no longer like an in-game spot. It's like it's like a transitionary mid to end game, right? It's still really good, but you have Hadoom, which is like more gear dependent. So I guess I consider Hadoom to be the quote end spots.
Sure,
but
how much did they buff her by?
Like she's not. So they buffed a little damage on Half Moon Slash and Moonstorm.
Like what?
And then they
overall percentage increase. What we get here?
So the skill went from 849% times 4 to 1019% times 4.
It's like a 20%, 15, 20.
And they buff another ability by about the same, but it's so weird because like they're not even all that important PvE skills, right? Like it's not even like I don't know. They're so weird. Did they like? It's so weird how they decide what classes they want to buff. Because like you would think that for a class like Kuno, who has been pretty forgotten, they would be willing to give her some massive buffs instead of like just tossing
pull her out
scraps
of the shadows
like,
a little bit.
Yeah, but maybe that's just the way that I think. I'm just kind of in favor of, if it's gonna be on Global Labs, just go balls to the wall. Like throw out some stupid shit that like it may be too overtuned to make it, but that's what Global Labs is for, right? Like, why do these tiny little incremental things when you could just be like, okay, this week we're gonna give fucking Musa a grab on Global Labs and we're gonna see how it's gonna work out, like just little like just big things like that.
Ever do that.
It's not gonna make it to live server, but we just want to see how it would work out. That's just
I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable because they originally, what they did is they increased her hit count but decreased her damage. So her overall damage increase was around like 5%, but her damage was more reliable. And that wasn't really that big. And I played her for the first time because of that change. And the Awakening in Mirmok felt really good to me. I was surprised by the damage it did. But it's not like Musa level. It's not like DK even. And like those classes are the classes they're giving big buffs to. And so I feel like this is a pretty big oversight, and maybe it's just the lack of Kuno players to get reference from, so they're just being very cautious because who plays Kuno? I don't know anybody who plays Kuno.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know.
Has been pretty adamant and vocal about it, and I think when he saw the global changes, he was like, "What the heck?" But other than him, like, there really aren't. And most people that would have played it have just rolled or tagged and they're off of it. So I think there are some dedicated players, but I don't think that they're getting enough feedback because then you would have seen as much changes as the Ninja would have gotten.
And Kuno's always that like redheaded stepchild too, right? Where like anytime Ninja gets a nerf, Kuno also gets nerfed, even though like Kuno doesn't warrant it.
Yeah.
Like what?
They need to stop doing that. They need to start treating them like unique classes and stop treating them like the same class.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. There are going to be vocal people that weren't vocal that said, "Wait, why didn't you buff us too?"
Yeah, I would like to
And it'll just
see,
get fixed.
like you said, like I hope that they listen to this like vocal stuff and like they do a secondary iteration on it for the PvE.
I'm sure they will.
Like I would like to see that this week sometime, and just like this, not big changes like we saw this last time, but like, okay, the Kuno ones weren't enough. Let's buff those. The Lawn Succession, like what in the world were we thinking? Let's get rid of those. You know, like I feel like doing another iteration on this where you kind of improve what you've already have there would be really, really nice before it goes to live. For both, also for PvP, for the PvP version and the PvE version, I'd like to see like a tune up of both of those. Because like Succession DK did not deserve big buffs, and they gave her massive buffs. So maybe tuning those down a little bit would be nice, and the players know what they changed. So I don't know. It's a lot of changes on the way. I think the good side of this is that everybody's excited to see what's happening, and I don't think so many people have been excited about class changes in BDO, and I can't even remember. Like I can't remember last time people were this excited for like getting class changes.
It's so interesting to have a PvP tournament going on and getting PvE class changes prior to the 10v10. Even though, like, PvE balance has always been something on the table to be adjusted, but it's just kind of like, wait, I thought this was the PvP quarter of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just because they're in the numbers already. And they're already paying attention to feedback without
It took
characters.
them this long to get it all through the game, and they're like, okay, I think we're finally ready. We did all 22 classes with each two specializations, so we've edited 44 classes of data and analyzed it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to produce it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm kind of curious if like, since they're listening to feedback right now about classes, I wonder how many people are like, all right, I would like this changed in PvP and I'd like this changed in PvE, and just because they're getting both of them at the same time already, they're like, well, we might as well just do both, even though we were really here for PvP. It'd be just so easy to do PvE right now. So that's the only thing I can really think about it, but I'm happy. I'm not complaining. So,
did the Guardian have anything, Kerr?
Guardian actually did, which was one of the craziest things. They increased the damage of one of her abilities, and they increased the crit rate of her Shift F by 25%, which is really
nuts.
Which is really weird. I don't know why they did that. And then Succession got a little bit of a knock up too, which is really nice. I'm happy about that.
I untagged the Striker to tag Guardian.
Yeah, they increased the PV damage of Flow Suppress by like 150% of the skills, the damage modifier, and added a 25% crit rate increase to Cleansing Flame. So yeah, Awakening Guardian got some buffs.
Blombear is probably one of the few people in the world who actually knows how powerful Guardian truly is. Like once you go into Olin Valley, your eyes open up to how truly powerful Guardian is.
It's pretty crazy. So I've run like Olins with a lot of different classes. It's very interesting to go from like Striker, where there's a lot of single target, constant high DPS, like not burst, but just high consistent damage. And then rolling over to Guardian and noticing that like all the ads die very quickly when you play Guardian because everything is just doing massive AoE damage. It's like, dude, this is nuts.
And you don't have to aim.
No, you don't have to aim shiz, dude. It's awesome. It's crazy because I've wanted to play Guardian for a long time, but like the idea and concept of it being slow always scared me. And people were always like, when it first launched, people were like, "There's no way this class will be good. It's too slow." And then like everybody played it, and it was like, "Hey, it's good." It's like, okay, well,
I'm convinced that was just a big conspiracy from the Siege guilds to keep people from playing it. There's like,
there's a lot of people.
We can't tell people about this. This is terrible, guys.
Guardian and Suck Wiz tags is crazy. I had no idea that there were so many people with like those two classes paired together, and I missed out because like, holy cow, Guardian's a lot of fun on top of everything else. Like, I love Suck Zerker and Zerker in general. I've had a lot of fun playing, but Guardian like feels like the female alternative to Zerker, and I'm really glad I did tag it. I mean, I mostly was watching you, Kerr, when I was like, "Dang, dude, this looks nuts. Let me play it." So
just melt everything, dude.
You're like half my inspiration to.
Once you go back, it's like I feel like once you go Guardian, you just can't go back. It's just
honestly,
yep.
It doesn't feel like that's going to be an option.
Got a taste of the golden nectar.
It's nuts, and like it's a pretty looking class, and the weapons and the stance and everything. It's wielding this just massive thing. I think only thing that Guardian needs now is like an armor set, like a massive armor costume, like the Jungle Beast that Zerker has. So the only
Actual
thing it's
pants.
missing. Right? Yeah, like some pants covered up, dude.
Literally the worst drawback about Guardian, period, is that she doesn't have very many good costumes.
No, it's
Like
like one
some
good one.
the best thing you could do is just get the Orzeka.
Dude, it looks sick on her, dude. It looks
really
so
does.
good. Did you get the boob slot window or did you cover the boob slot?
I still have the boob window on her. I haven't closed it yet. I'm gonna eventually close it, but she still
Wait,
has
you can
the
close it
window.
once it opened.
Yeah, so you get the base costume is an open boob slot, and then you can like go to the blacksmith to get a quest to close it. But once you close it, it's gone forever.
Oh,
And then you got to get a whole new
interesting.
costume to get another boob slot window in.
So what you're telling me is that everybody's going to grind out 2 costumes now because of that.
I quite literally have 2 costumes for my guardian for Negadan.
I knew it. Honestly, pretty 5-head of Pearl Abyss to do that. Honestly,
Keep people going for this stuff.
you do it twice. One of my favorite changes here, aside from classes, is actually for Global Lab. They changed guild decks, so guild decks can now be any guild to any guild. I am so happy for this because this is going to be a huge reinvigoration of open world PvP. Because when you run out of karma in the past, it was frustrating if you asked for a guild deck, your officer would be like, well, we don't do those because there's no way they're going to be, oh, yep, can't deck them, undeckable guild, So now they're kind of reversing that, where any guild can deck any guild again, and kind of makes it free, open, fair. And I like that a lot. I think that's a very good
They
system.
scrapped the last idea where they were going to make every guild pay like 3% of their total income per deck or something. Is that gone now?
No, that's still in there. I think it's coming on the 26 patch.
You're getting that and this new change?
Yeah, because they said their justification for it was like, now that we've added the guild fee change, there's not gonna be as many guilds who are willing to grief. It's gonna be a conscious guild effort to grief, and because of this, we think any guild can deck any guild, and this new system will replace the old penalty. And so basically, I think that's pretty cool. Though basically, it's changing. I think this is a much better penalty. The silver penalty is much better, much more effective than the old one. Because the old penalty, like, all you did is like, okay, we're just not going to do, node wars ever, and we'll just grief whoever we want.
I hope they like do a little tuning with all these systems more before they come, because like the outlaw system is pretty much just all bad in the side of like the person that's getting griefed, because like with the outlaw system, it's like, all right, so you're punished if you deck the enemy guild for too long because you're constantly bleeding guild funds the longer you keep the deck up, and then if they grief you and you go negative karma defending your spot, oh, well, now you got these outlaws coming to kill you, and only the outlaws get like monthly rewards from the outlaw rank, or only the sheriffs get monthly rewards through the sheriff ranking. There's like no benefits being an outlaw, even though you're the one getting griefed in most cases, right? So it's like, hopefully they retune, like they kind of revisit some of this stuff and just don't like put it in and forget about it. Because I feel like the outlaw system could be really cool along with these guild deck changes if they do some tweaking down the line,
Mm-hmm. I think the real big penalty, like how bad the punishment's going to be, is going to be the main success or failure of the sheriff system. Now, karma already has its own penalty and its own reward, which is I kill you, you disappear. And there needs to probably be like a respawn timer there and no RNG karma loss. But aside from that, the karma system already has a pretty well served purpose. And I think with the sheriff system, if every time you get killed when you're notorious and you go to jail, and you have to spend 30 minutes in jail doing whatever menial task to get out of jail, I think that's going to be a really bad penalty. But I don't know if we can really know if the penalty is good or bad until we've experienced it, because how often do you go to jail? Is jail like a long sentence or a bad thing? Does it work like Arcade and you just go back to where you were after jail? Or do you spawn in like the city nearby? And so I feel like there's a lot of choices there that the developers are making that without us experiencing it, we can't really know how bad it is. like I said though, I do think they have to fix karma, because if they don't fix karma, I think the notorious the sheriff system is dead on arrival, and I think also like they need to think about how that's going to apply to GVGs a little bit as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're gonna do some more tweaks to it because they haven't told about what the rewards are gonna be and the punishments and all that. So I think it's good that they're thinking about these things. Just
Yeah.
as long as the implementation's good. You know?
And they're doing small changes every week to it, you know, like that's why I like to see too. Like they did the guild fee thing, and then they realized that was a little too harsh, so now they're walking that back by making any guild can deck any guild, and you know the sheriff system's in play, so maybe that's going to like every week they're doing something small, and you know we'll have to see where this leads. Like I think my concern is they release it early because of some internal time schedule thing, and it releases unfinished, and then we just get it a half finished product, and we're stuck with that forever, and they just never finish it. Because as soon as something's released, they almost never touch it again. Like we've seen with Sage, like Sage came out, they did one big fix, they did one small fix, and that's it. And it just doesn't get touched anymore. And I think that's just gonna on to the next project, and I think that's fine if it's done. And I think Sage Awakening is pretty much done, but my fear is that when new content comes out, they're not going to follow up. So I don't know. I do like this. What do you guys think of it though? Like, do you think this is
Hope they
good?
add more cowboy costumes when the sheriff and outlaw system come out. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Cowboy costumes.
Yeah, like you get like your sheriff one, and then you got your outlaw one, and you can like pick a side, and
That should be
That
that
could
should
be
be one of
funny.
the rewards. That should be like the top tier reward of everything. Is you get some
be
like
so cool.
crazy Western outfit.
yeah, because like they got Carlstein, which is nice, but it's so old that it's like, eh. But if they had like an OG cowboy outfit, like Woody from Toy Story kind of thing with the little cow pelts and all, like that'd be cool.
You're not from around here, are you?
Just something to like just add a little fun to it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome. I wanna get a cigar. Turn myself into Graves from League of Legends.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yep. Sage is getting 58 rare bombs in Global Lab. New Venture Journal that gives you AP DP.
Yeah, another one is that's the like 5-week Zarka quest line, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. We couldn't figure out how to force you to go to Zarka with good rewards, so we're just gonna make you go there for AP DP now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, I'll take it. Okay, I'll take my AP.
So it's like, okay, so it makes me wonder, okay, so are they doing this because they're not doing seasons and this is how to teach players to go to world bosses, or is this just more just free gear because they're trying to up the soft cap, right?
I don't think new players even know Venture Journals even exist.
Right, sure, but that's the thing. It's like, you have when you did the seasonal thing, they had a ton of the quest lines being like, hey, go to this world boss, hey, go to this world boss. So I'm curious if they're going to release these new systems to make people go to them, because then you have to research. It's like, okay, Zarka spawns, okay, where does he spawn? And like the book teaches you maybe about that, because I think that's what they're maybe alternatively turning the adventure journal into, is like it's half of like a history log of some of these dates and times of all these histories in the game, but also like ways to teach new players things too. Like some of them are like really basic and teaching you how to like do basic cooking and alchemy. So curious if that's how they're treating the adventure log this kind of round.
I don't know. I've just seen so many bad things out of it. Like they're like, "Hey, we're gonna fix the blue accessory economy by creating an adventure journal," and then they're sold out forever. And then like there are times they're like, "Okay, we're going to fix the Kafris market by giving you an adventure journal that gives you tons of Kafris," and it's like, I just think that the adventure journal whole system, I think there's way better solutions to it than adding on to a really terrible system. Like they are.
Well, it's better than like releasing like either a time gated quest line or like a one time quest line thing, right? Like they can turn anything into a quote, anything they want to edit with the game, they can turn into a quote adventure journal and then like make you do it because it's so worth it, right? Like I find
Yeah.
that to be, I don't think that's the best way to do it, but like that's how they are doing things like that. It's kind of interesting.
I guess the thing that I like is that you're at least doing something with other people for the first couple stages, you know,
Oh, I
when
love
going
it.
for it. Instead of them being like, okay, go to this random mountain over here in the middle of Valencia and press
Yeah.
R on this little sparkly thing and we gave you a 1 AP. At least this is kind of like making you do this
Yeah.
like Hadoom Zarka fight with your boys, you
Yeah.
know. Like it's a little different. I think that's like the main reason that they even removed seasonal to begin with, right? Is like it was not very intuitive. You kind of just hopped on, did the main quest, and then got your Tet accessory like at the end,
Mhm.
and that really like affected the market a lot. So I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent with it. I like this way about giving the stats if they're gonna do it. Make it give me a reason to get with my boys, even if it's just for like a couple hours. You know, give me a
Yeah.
reason to like do something with some other people.
Yeah, every time they've done an adventure journal, it's like, all right, guys, here's the time I add all my 10 friends that I hang out in my like friend Discord. And I'm like, all right, 10 guys, we're all gonna get on my pirate ship and we're gonna have to sail into
Mm.
the ocean and dive 50 feet under and talk to this thing. And then we're gonna do it's gonna take 3 hours, set up a whole night for it. Like, and every time we do that, it's a lot of fun. Like, it's like watching a bunch of children because like I know what I'm doing and everybody's just like it's like watching a bunch of kids and they're all like wandering around and half of them are jumping off the boat half the time and half of them are wanting to 1v1 each other and it's like, come on guys, let's go, we're moving. Like it's like a field trip for kids and it's, I don't know, it's always so fun because everybody's just like, you know, when you were gallivanting around the world for one of the more recent ones where you had to go all around Valencia, like that stuff was, you know, it could be horrible and boring if you make it, but when you're running around with friends, like, I don't know, I had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
I
So,
feel like it's a chore. That's why I don't like it. It's not something that I'm choosing to do because I want to do it. It's something that I'm forced to do because the reward is too great to ignore. And
Yeah.
that's the main reason why I don't like it. It would be completely different if I was given like 5 different options and then I get to choose the option that I like the best to gain an AP or DP. I still think that would probably be slightly forced, but at least then I get to like some freedom in it. So I think it's
Yeah.
just the lack of freedom that I don't really enjoy in it. Because like the reason why I like
Yeah.
BDO is I can choose the grind or life skill or barter or, you know, like do enhancing for profit or buy things at the marketplace and sell them back to the marketplace later on for profit. There's just a crazy number of different things you can do in BDO, and then out of all those options, I'm forced to do one that the developers decided, and I think that's what bothers me about it. Not necessarily that the reward is not worth it or anything like that. It's like it's just the forced. I want to be.
Yeah,
I
for me,
want to choose it.
it's like perspective. Like I 100% saw it that way for a long time where I was just like, great, another one of these things I got to do. But then it's like, well, what else am I gonna do? Grind in a circle? It's like this is gonna make me like,
Yeah,
it's like
I chose to grind in a circle, and I chose
it's like
where
when
to
you gotta
grind in
go
a circle.
outside and get the mail. It's like, well, I don't want to, but like, you know, kind of have to.
That makes
You know what
sense.
I mean?
I chose
But
this circle.
I mean, I'm the same way, right? Like, there's things I'd rather do, but like setting, I guess, like a night, to just go get it done. It's like semi chorish, but it's just something fun and different. It just
I do think
depends.
diversity is good. I think diversity in game is good. I think there's
It's okay to not like it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I will say that if again on the topic of the journal that they're adding, if they're gonna do something, if they're gonna do this as a thing and it's gonna always be a thing like this, I would rather it be something like this where I actually have to play with a couple other players, even if it's just for an hour, than the whole like walk into the middle of Valencia and press R on something. You know, even though you can have fun with that, but you know what I mean, like. Fighting something with the boys is nice, right?
Force the group content. That's how
yes.
you make it fun.
I
You gotta
think
Yes.
I think one of the issues that they're going to run into, and there's going to be a lot of feedback on, is right now people don't really have like I think a lot of new players don't have guilds they're playing with. They're just playing solo. They run around. Like I don't think there's like a lot of like you might not have enough buddies to go do this. And I
There's
feel
a
like-
lot of people that are new that they don't even join guilds. They think that, oh, I don't want to join a guild. It's like they're going to expect so much. It's like, no, please, as a new player, join any of those crazy advertising guilds because like the people in the game is what keeps it alive. And like there's so
Absolutely.
many just different people in this game that either A, they're willing to help you a ton and literally sacrifice their whole day to help you do some random quest line or, you know, whatever. I mean, there's people that constantly want to help other people in this game. Like, of all kinds of types.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really big point. Like, why do a lot of streamers not quit BDO? Well, because they're streaming BDO. There's people playing BDO that want their help and are watching them, and so like that's the reason why streamers keep playing. The reason that guilds stay around is because it's not because the game is that good all the time. It's because they have friends in the guild that they made, and they have the BDO is what's in common, and so they keep playing the game even if they're like a casual player. They keep staying around, coming around, and like, hey, what's good? What's going on? They hang out on Discord. Still kind of like, pushing around some mobs here and there, or maybe picking up the event items. And it's just because of the community aspect.
Yeah.
I had a point, but I completely forgot what it was. Oh, the new good thing. I think what I would like to see from this is I'd like to see it where you have to do it with your guild. I think that's one thing I'd like to see changed. The group activity, I wanted to see it where you have to do it with your guildmates, and that way it builds like a sense of community inside the guild. And I think although that will cause a lot of growing pains, I think ultimately that'll build the tides within a guild a little bit stronger.
And if you're not in a guild, it'll incentivize you to join a guild to do the group activity.
Exactly, which will then
even if you join
itself.
it temporarily, it could still be a long-term bonus effect if you.
I will say that over time, there's been a big decrease in like the feeling of loyalty within guilds, especially since like you could just merc to a different guild every day of the week if you really wanted to, right? Like there's no longer a reason to stay loyal to a
You gotta
guild.
remove merking, dude.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I would really like to see them somehow like organically steer back towards that guild loyalty, I guess, and like I don't know, dude. I don't want to speak too much on the merc system because, like, I fucking hate large scale PvP nowadays. So I no longer do like Siege every Saturday like I used to, or Node Wars 3 times a week. But like,
what's the value in a large scale fight when everybody that you fight is either your friends? Like, if you end up like all your friends end up merking into different things, or your enemies are merking in the same guilds you're merking, it's like there's no sense of like, okay, there is no enemy, there is no friend. Everybody's just in a giant ball pit. And we're just doing whatever. It's like there is no sense of like, like you have GVGs and like some guilds that don't like each other, but when they're merking in the same guild, like what are they gonna do? Right?
I miss the rivalries in the sense that like I feel like most of them are kind of gone, because I remember the olden days where like when I first started playing the game and I was trying to like I was at Mancha Forest and I was like trying to kill ogres because I saw someone link an ogre ring in chat, and that shit was like oh my god, so much better than my like Barris that I had. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go kill ogres. Well, then I get node camped for like 3 hours by a Black Rose Ranger. So then, like, I developed a hate for Black Rose back in the day. So then I was like, okay, fuck it, dude. I'm going to go and grind and get strong. And then I'm going to come back and take the ogre channel from Black Rose members, right? So it kind of like pushed that, like, and I was like, okay, well, I need to join a guild and like, so then I can have some boys. So then I joined this this guild called Fortune back in the day, back in 2016.
What?
And like, the game became so fun because I had people to talk to, and then like I was just like constantly pushing for gear so that I could fight the Black Rose members. So and I feel like a lot of that is gone nowadays because there isn't really that like that rivalry that you really have like you used to.
It's open world PvP is so dead because the karma system got ruined. Like the way things worked back in the day and how rivalries formed is you'd have open world PvP, which would make you hate somebody. And, I think that could have been argued that it was too much. I think it might be true. And then that would turn into a GVG. And in GVGs, if people got mad about a GVG, that would turn into a rivalry for Node Wars. And so you're like, where are they placing? Well, look at the map here. Let me check it around here. Well, they're in Valencia? All right, boys, we're showing up in Valencia this week. All right, and so then you'd have a node, like a guild rivalry that would happen, and it would show up to the same node every week to beat up on each other. And then you're like, yo, there's this third guy this week. Yo, both of us, hey, you take out this third guy, then we're gonna fight. All right, I'm gonna show you who's boss. And so you'd have these two rivals, and you're like, well, the enemy of my enemy, and you go take them out. And so then sometimes they become allies because they have like a unified between like a bigger enemy, and then those guilds join together. And then they're like, all right, let's take on the Black Rose enemy or whatever it is. And they all kind of died because they killed the open world PvP, which then killed the GVGs. which then killed the Node Wars. And I think that each of those have been downgraded to be more casual, but by being more casual, no one wanted to participate in them. The fun part of the competitiveness, the hate, the rivalries, kind of just all burnt away. This made it where, oh, well, of course you have no one complaining about it anymore, but the complaining is what caused it to be so enjoyable in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I would really, like we were saying, sort of like Blonde Bear said, I'd really like them to like somehow figure out don't exactly force the guild loyalty onto you, but kind of, like steer it in a way.
It wouldn't be forced if you just like were part of the guild and part of all the fights, right? Like you'll naturally become a loyal member of a guild by being there a long time and doing things with the guild and having fun with your guild. But when you can murk out at any point and join some of their guild and meet different people, and then it's like, well, it's like, I don't want to bully my friends that I just made, so now I don't want to fight them ever. Like, I don't like fighting anyone at all because I'm friends with everybody. But like I said, I've been doing tier 1 Node Wars for the last few weeks, and it's been fun. Yep. And it's like, I'm trying not to see anybody as any friends and just trying to fight. But I think that as much as there are good things with the Merc system, it has longer term negative effects on a lot of the high end game,
for sure,
than ever was before. Because it's killed like, how many siege guilds we got now? 4 siege guilds.
Yeah, and they're like the same ones, right? Like every now and then you'll have a different like a Balanos guild that pops up from like other guilds merging, or like somebody just popping up. But yeah, I miss the days where like the Merc system wasn't a thing, and it's like, oh, man up, man up was on top, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna push gear and try to get a spot in man up because there isn't none of the Merc thing. So the people that are in, right? And you just trying to get on the wait list or something. And I guess a little bit of that's still there, right? Like you have still Snake is pretty exclusive, right? You gotta have the gear, you gotta know people and things like that. But even then, like, you guys do a lot of merking out and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I mean, you leave and you join back whenever you want to for the fight for the weekend. So
yeah, and I mean, then you have players like Choice, like where they drop guild completely, and it's like, I mean, he's still loyal to like Snake, right? But he drops and joins for Node Wars all week long because you can't even participate in wars as siege guilds. It's like you get punished for being in a castle and you don't get to PvP all week, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big oversight. I feel like you should be able to do tier 4s like all week long. I don't think there should be any limitation on that. So like that way, the dominance factor of being like, I'm the best tier 4 guild is becoming a siege guild. And so really siege guilds are just the best of tier 4 guilds. And I think that makes a lot more sense than you take a siege region and then you don't get to do any more fights at all. And then that just encourages people to continue not holding the siege region, and encourages people to leave the siege region. And yeah, it's a big issue. I think the issue with new guilds not coming up is more just the fact that siege regions are bored and the mercenary system being a thing. And the combination of both of those means that they merc out and then they go
Just
to
merc out.
Yeah.
And then merc people in, yeah. And there's no reason. So we don't need new members because we can just merc someone from the next strongest guild and the next strongest guild. So like, what's the point of needing new guilds if we're killing like any incentive to grow?
Yep,
because
exactly.
you can just merc
Now
members from the second strongest guild.
On Global Labs a long time ago, they introduced a fix for the mercenary system, but I think it's tied to the new Node Wars system. So it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting the new mercenary system until we get the new Node Wars system. And who knows how many changes that has gone through since then, because it's still a huge work in progress.
Yeah, I saw some interesting stuff there was a screenshot on Reddit a couple weeks back where a guild in Korea in the new Node Wars system took all the nodes. Like, I don't know if like Siege is just dead there, but they took not all the nodes, but all the regions. Like they took every region, which is like, what the fuck? Like, how's that a thing? So, but didn't they remove the new Node Wars system off of Korea and like went back to the drawing board recently?
They did a beta test on Korea. So the beta test was like 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I don't know exact time length. And so they tested it out there. The problem is there was 4 starting locations, so if you controlled the 4 starting locations, it apparently made it almost impossible for new people to get in. And the goal was originally to make it where they're staggered, so like Belnos and Serenity would happen on like Monday, Wednesday, and so you couldn't do both at the same time. But apparently, if you're a strong enough guild with allies, this was my original theory, is that if you had enough allies, you could just control the entire game, assuming you had enough allies. Because there's nothing stopping your allies from protecting your nodes, and there's no benefit for them doing it, like protecting their own nodes. So I definitely
Interesting.
yeah, I think that they went back and they changed a lot of stuff. They made it where you can start anywhere now, which should aid that problem. And I think they're looking at some other stuff as well. I think honestly they didn't really understand anything about Node Wars, so it's like they had to start from scratch again and like relearn all the lessons they had to do with original Node Wars. That's kind of like the what it looks like from the outside looking in on it. Because like a lot of things to us are like, you should of course have never done that, like, and then like it, it feels like they have to relearn that, because the original Node Wars had changes that the current ones don't. So it's interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What
going back to the
about,
mercenary stuff, I think
yeah.
I think they had a mercenary change where you can only have a certain amount of gear, in the guild for mercenary.
There's
So
like some gear cap for the mercs. Yeah,
so it's
I
something
don't think
like,
that's the fix either, though.
yeah, I think it's right now it's unlimited gear. So the idea would be you could have in 3 members who have bad gear or 1 member who has good gear. I'm not sure exactly what the gear caps look like for mercenaries, but you'd have to balance, like, do you want 3 members with bad gear or do you want 1 member with good gear? And that I do think that it will increase the loyalty to guilds, but I don't think it's a perfect fix. Better than we have right now, where you have 99 mercenaries or whatever, though.
Yeah, I guess time will tell.
Sure.
Was there anything in the patch notes from this week that you guys thought was pretty interesting? I know we had the little system where you could get up to 25 magic range and melee DP during Node War Siege.
Oh my gosh, I was like so excited for this concept, and then have you guys looked at the prices to even level that stat up?
Well,
You guys know you don't do it with skill points, right?
Yeah.
you have to pay like
Really?
hundreds of war seals just to even get like a few skill points.
Really?
Oh my
Yeah.
god, you! It's woo.
my main problem with it overall is 2 factors. One, they changed the rewards, the seals you get from doing Node Wars, so you couldn't use the seals you've gotten for
You use the
years
old
on it.
skills.
Which means everybody who's been doing Node Wars and saving them up for a very long time, they get no benefit whatsoever for saving them that entire time, which I think
Get a whole
is,
new currency.
yep, I think that's completely bullshit. I think that's a really bad decision, and literally the only reason they did that is because they're trying to force players to grind it all over again, and that's not how you reward players for the time they put in, even if that time has already been put in the past. And
I
yeah,
just don't understand how they don't tie it to a skill point thing and tie it to a whole new currency. It's like so you're telling me, so if you just keep losing and losing and losing, you lose every war, then like you're just gonna have to wait forever to fully skill this thing up. Which the players that win just get stronger and stronger and stronger and harder to beat anyways. So you're just gonna stay at the bottom, like.
Which
Okay.
then makes it so you're gonna want to merc into the bigger guilds so you can get the wins, right?
What a great concept! Why
Yeah.
instead of just making it so that everybody can access it, now only the winners access it. Which I get that there should be winner rewards, but this isn't the reward that the winners should be getting. This it's
we
like the
didn't-
loser reward.
in the past, we didn't need rewards to do Node Wars. We don't need it. It was the whole rivalry system,
Rivalry,
and like,
yeah.
I'm the best. I control Valencia because I'm the best. Like, that was what all people needed to fuel their rage. Like, did they really go in there to get that 200, 300 mil payout? No, nobody cared about that. Maybe at the initial start, people cared about that a little bit, but the reason people kept on doing it wasn't for the payout. Like, people continued doing it because they wanted to be called the best. They wanted to be part of the best guild. And I feel like this whole idea where you have to reward PvP, it's like, does League of Legends pay you to play the game? No, you do it because you enjoy the PvP in League of Legends. And maybe you earn a new cosmetic or you unlock a new character, but we already have new characters you can unlock in BDO. We already have cosmetics you can unlock in BDO. Like, I don't think that the the money per hour needs to be there. It just needs to be enough to pay off your bills. That's what it needs to be. So I don't know. Why do you guys think about it? Like, what do you guys think it needs?
I think they already been finished the changes they think they want, so we can like analyze it from there. When we talk about changing things or adding things when they're in the middle of a whole revamp, it's like, well, I can't see the full system for what it is, and there's long time effects to any of these changes too, right? Long time node
True.
war effects could change the whole scene. Long term merc effects could change the whole scene. Like, I don't think like marking as a whole system is like the worst thing in the video game, but it has 100% affected the way that people look at, respect, or even want to view Siege as a long-term thing. And even just capping it to like 3 to 5 members just flat forever would be a huge markup for the system.
True.
I don't know. There's just a lot of things that have to, like, and like you said earlier, like something about changing the game how they want it to be, not how the players want it to be. If they need to state their objective, they need to say what is the intent for this game to be, and then players
Yeah.
can help make it whatever the devs think they want to make it into, and not make it half player based, half dev based video game.
Yeah, I feel like a clear vision that both the players can rally behind and the developers can rally behind, and we can all go for that goal, I think is definitely a really strong point to make. Kerr, you said like, why do you think it's interesting in the patch? We got slow stacking this week, which I don't think is a complete solution to the issue, but it's a step in the right direction. What do you guys think?
I like it.
You think
It doesn't fix the issue, but
Yeah.
definitely slow stacking to 50% is better than 99%. For sure.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. It's actually like 49% better than 99% slow or something like that, right? It's I don't know, like I can't imagine being 99% slow where you like, do you even move at that point? Do you see even your character move? Like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think. I have 100 FPS. If I move that much slower, I'm going in. I do the same animation in like 10 seconds. That would normally take me 1 second.
I spam a shit ton of RBF. Like I probably do RBF at least. The majority of the time I play BDO nowadays is like doing RBF, HUD Suck Guardian, and like
Well,
the difference between 99% slow and 50% slow is really huge. Like there's a lot of times where in the past I would just die because I can't move and get off like an iframe or to escape. And having it at 50% as compared to 99% is pretty big, honestly.
so you've noticed a huge change then.
Yeah, like it obviously it doesn't completely solve the issue, but I never expected them to even address the slow stacking. So I got to give them props for that. Even if it doesn't completely fix the issue, I didn't expect them to do anything.
The other thing I thought was interesting to say, there's a max speed buff of 250%, which I guess is this targeted at speed hackers? Question mark.
Oh.
So
No, I don't think they utilize attack speed modifiers. They actually mess with the actual game itself. They like break the abilities in the game. So I don't think it's reference to attack speed. It would be interesting to know.
yeah, I wonder.
But I guess that we would never. There's no way we'd be able to figure that out.
Well, it for sure fixes the speed hacking, like wagging dudes. There's like some wagons for speed hacking where they do like horse training, and then they just speed hack at 250% or 500%, whatever crazy speed they could get to, and they go by your screen so fast, and they're in a ghillie that there's no way to report them. You can't get off your firecracker fast enough to to figure out what their name is. So like they're on your screen, and I was on my tier 8 horse on my screen, and the wagon passed me, and it was off my screen before I could even even realize what was going on.
I'm curious if this is like just player capping people's speed in general, or like only buffs and debuffs. Like I don't think you. I don't know how you'd get to 250 attack speed. I don't know how that would even.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. That is true. It's kind of an interesting thought, I guess.
I wonder if this is a nerf to those speed boots that GMs have, if they won't be able to run around the game world as fast.
Interesting.
Sherna or somebody confirmed that a while back. And I thought that was so fun that they had those. We kind of figured they had some type of way of getting around, but it makes sense that it's speed boots, I guess. Let's see. There's a new Wanban and Jin they added to the game for ignore resistance for offhand. This is more of like a PvP item. I think people will like that compared with the was it the Kaidak crystals? Is that what they are? Not
yeah, it's a chest. It's a chest evasion crystal. No. These are the
It's
offhand
the
crystals.
that's the
Offhand
resistance crystal. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking of the new ones.
Yeah. I think there will be some very good builds against like if like anti-grapple resistance becomes a thing, then people can start using that.
I find it to be so interesting because they talked about how there's players constantly berating. Oh, remove resistance, resistance, and having all these debate tactics about resistance and wanting to change this. So it's very interesting to see them just come out with an ignore resistance crystal offhand when so many players are screaming stuff about altering resistance as a mechanic entirely. It's like, yeah, we don't care. Here's a new crystal. Bam! Like, shut up. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm really curious on how, like, what their thought was. Like, maybe they're trying to do this in order to like appease the players a little bit. Like, maybe that's the end goal. Is like, well, here you go. Here's a little bit of something. Like, is that good enough? Are you happy? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's the response to see if it like quells the complaining. I don't feel like the AP and HP is like good enough on it though. I feel like the AP and HP is a little too low.
It's really hard to beat the crit alternative too for the offhand because it's just so strong for
so much crit damage.
Classes. Yeah, it's like it's impossible.
And you get the same AP as this just about too.
I think it could work in some like really niche like Nuver builds because Nuver already gives you some like some resistance ignore, right? I think you could make it work in some kind of niche build, but I don't see it taking the spot of crit crystals. Crit crystals are just so good, you know?
Is there any way currently to get 60% ignore resistance so you can just always CC somebody guaranteed?
There's 20 from your main hand and 20 from now the offhand. So is there any others?
Well, see, the problem is though, is that you're capped at 60, but you still have to go through their resistance, right? So you would So like if they're stacking them, if someone's at 100, then you're gonna have to first get through 40. That extra 40 off top, and then get yours.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I feel like that may be the long-term solution is just make more items that have ignore resistance on them, and then people can just opt for that and maybe lose a little bit of AP, but then have guaranteed CCs.
So, like, we were talking about it a little bit in chat earlier. Some people were saying, I forget who it was. They were saying, what if you make it so that only the first CC is affected by resistances? And if you're already, like, knocked down, then the second CC is guaranteed. Like, what do you guys think about that?
That's been a huge criticism. I've seen a lot of people saying, I don't know. I've only been in the tier 1 scene for a minute. I don't sit there in the BA and PvP enough to, like, notice a difference between the CC. If I get CC'd, I'm dead. No matter what, even at my 385 DP. So I don't know who's resisting enough to even survive, but
I think it comes more into play when there's like a match. Like if the person that's getting the CC is less geared, like isn't geared enough to one combo the other person anyway, right?
Or if you're fighting like a class that stands up quick. You know how like some of those classes in the game, like when I 1v1 some classes, it's like no problem. But when I 1v1 a Zerker, they have like the quickest get up time. Like I was fighting my friend, I'm like, how are you getting up so quickly? And I was like, I forgot that classes get up at different rates. So it's like,
like Ninja
without guaranteeing without guaranteeing the second knockdown or the second CC, it's like there's no way I'm ever going to kill you unless I just get crazy lucky. Like it's impossible. So I mean, I guess technically in that specific scenario, that sounds like it'd be fair.
I think the one question is how would they implement that? I think the idea is good, but the implementation seems almost impossible without the retrospect of understanding each nuanced fight. Because, like, all right, do you give them a half second after the original CC wears off? Like, do you give them a whole second? Like, do you give them 2 seconds? Like, how much leeway do you give people after the CC wears off? Or do you have to hit your next CC before your first CC wears off? Like, I think there's a little bit of nuance there, which if not handled properly could could lead to
Yeah.
abuse.
It's like I don't know anything about coding, so I don't know how they would be able to.
I'm kind of like on the fence because I know CCR like resist is kind of annoying as shit, but like range like it would the disparity would be crazy if every time like an archer shot you from range you were guaranteed CC'd, or every time you got hit by a meteor you were guaranteed to get knocked down
Yeah,
or
but that's
stiffened by
not-
the fall down. Like I don't know.
That's
dude.
not really true though, because a lot of times you're rotating super armors or you're doing S block, like you're positioning properly. I think you might have to change your
that's true, yeah.
play style a little bit, but we already have so many abilities to counter that kind of stuff that I think most people's play styles wouldn't even change, really. Like, unless you don't have an S block, unless your class doesn't have an S block, that's really the only thing I think would be a problem.
Yeah, time will tell for that.
I think one thing I'd like to see, instead of it being CC resistance, turn it into damage mitigation for X amount of seconds after a CC's been applied. So you would have, if you had stun resistance, it would be like, 10% less damage after a stun. And obviously, I think the damage numbers would have to be less than percentages, like more maybe flat based or something. But I think that might be a really good solution where the items in the game could still have a use and still have a function. So if you want to be a beefcake, you just stack like a ton of these resistance crystals in your gear, and you can actually become extremely valuable. But only after you're getting CC'd by the particular type of CC. So I feel like something like that might be an interesting solution, but would require balancing and some finesse, which I don't think the developers want to put in. I think the main thing that I don't like about RNG CC is it takes the competitive element out of the game because the players can't plan for it. It's like you might win or lose a fight entirely based on missing a CC or getting hit by the enemy CC where yours missed. And I feel like those type of situations are really bad for the competitive environment. Now, I am never going to be good enough where that will matter, aside from maybe a grab once in a blue moon. But I definitely think at the upper end of PvP, if they want the game to continue being more competitive and more respected in a competitive sense, they need to eventually remove it. It doesn't have to happen this year, maybe the next year, but eventually that needs to be something that they focus on removing, just to maintain the competitive integrity of the game. And we've already seen that in the tournament too, where people lost because of like the RNG CC and like, hey, I'm the better player, but I lost because of RNG. Like, wow, great game. Like, is that person going to come back and play next year when they lost to RNG CC? Like, no.
Or you get a guy that combos the guy like 4 times, but just because of gear gap, they absolutely just stand up and one smack him. It's like,
yeah. Well, and then that's expedited even worse because of healing, right? The healing, exacerbates that issue.
It just depends on what kind of game they want, right? Do they want a game where we're one-shotting everybody every combo and wombo comboing all the way to death? Or do they want a game where people are surviving combos and then getting up and then like if they want people to survive, get up and keep fighting, then like resistances and not getting CC'd again makes sense. It's like, that's where I'm on the fence with Kerr. It's like, yeah, sure, it might make sense for some people that want to just sit there and wombo combo people to death, but is that the game that Prolibus wants? They would have removed resistance a long time ago if that's what they really wanted, I'm guessing.
I mean, I guess it's one of those things where we kind of come back to the same point. Like, we need to know what their vision of the game is. That way we can more accurately give feedback, because if we're asking for CC changes and they say this is something we feel like makes BDO unique and we don't ever want to change it, then we can just stop giving that feedback, right?
Yeah. And we will never know.
And I think that that clarity of vision for the game, what their vision of the game is, and having that two-way conversation a little bit would really help out direct our feedback, where we can say these are problems, and they're like, we don't have to give the same feedback over and over and over again and just feel like we're giving it to the void.
Yeah, because I mean, there's tons of people who are like, man, why is mage meta so strong? Why is mage meta not getting changed? Why is Tuckwiz just like a year later still just so OP? And it's like, maybe Prolibus wants one dominant class for a majority of open world, large scale fights, and that's just the way that the game's going to be. Yeah. And it was for a very long time. They didn't address it. They didn't say anything. They didn't want to touch it. They just left it. So it's like, yeah, for all we know, that's what they want.
And a really good thing is, like, if they came out and said Succession Sage, we want it to be really powerful because X, Y, Z, and if those reasons that they gave were just bad reasons, it would force developers to reconsider their opinions on it if they were just absolutely terrible reasons. But if they came out and actually gave really good reasons why they think there should be a meta in the game and it's just centered around Wizard Witch, right? And they actually have really clear thought out thoughts, and the player base will be like, okay, I get that, right? I understand you're trying to make a game. Maybe it's not the game that I want to play, but I understand that. But, you know, and it kind of like allows the developers to cross-check their opinions. I think they just have to have really thick skin. I think that's might be the only reason why we're not getting that is because they're just, they're just afraid of getting our like negative feedback.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, like there was people that on like the KR forums were saying, "Hey, if Suckwiz gets nerfed, I quit the game," or "If Suckwiz gets buffed, I quit the game," and "If this gets changed, I quit the game." And it's like they're really scared of their player base in that sense, where like they don't want to have one of those scenarios where, remember 3 years ago now, I guess, where they did all those PvP changes for the CC and everything, and like people freaked out. They changed so many classes, and people genuinely quit the game for a very long time and were done. They were like tired of it, and there was a drop for a long time.
I feel like the whole thing that they've learned from that is like this time around they're doing one big patch, and last time it was like 8 patches. It was like buff, nerf, buff, nerf, buff, nerf, and it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I do think that the game back then was generally going in a really solid direction. Like I think they were actually making extremely good changes to the game. The problem was that, it should have been one big patch, and it all happened in one big patch, or maybe like one big patch a month, not a big patch every single week. Give the players some time to digest it and understand what's going on, and explain what their thoughts are and everything, what their goals are. And they didn't really. I feel like that without the communication, you can't really do big changes like that. I definitely don't think. I think trying to avoid what happened like 2 or 3 years ago with the PvP is definitely something they should try to avoid, because that was a mess.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how they go about it, because in some ways it feels like we've wasted the last 2 years. Because remember, like 2 years ago they did that, like you guys were talking about that big PvE change where they took away a lot of protections and a lot of CCs from some classes, but then they just reinstated it with the core skills.
But that was
it's like, okay, let's give it all back. Here you go, guys.
Yeah, it's like,
well, they have a different team, right? I think that they have a different team and a different head of like who's making those decisions. So it's like, man, how do we take it back, guys? All right, well, here we go. We're just gonna give it all back in a different way.
Listen, whoever did that, just say the Oasis event is over and we're removing core skills from the game, and that was part of the Oasis event. That's your excuse. Get rid of Oasis and then get rid of the core skills, and we'll be back to a better version of BDO.
I don't know. I think we'll see.
You like core skills?
I like them in certain cases. I mean, granted, you can only have one core skill, and I do like the core skills. I do.
What?
Not all of them are created equal. Like, for example, like Tamer didn't get iframe on pole vault, which is arguably the number one thing that they have ever, like, they lost from that change. But I think it gives a little bit of diversity, because some people have different things. Because, for example, let's say when we were in the Arena of Arsha tournament that's going on, at the start, a lot of tamers were using like the super armor on legendary B stance. But as the meta has evolved inside the tournament, a lot of tamers switched over to the stiffen on Moonlight Strike as like a fast catch before the other person could cycle that super armor. So it does offer like a little bit of like diversity in the play. I just think that we kind of went full circle again by even putting some of that stuff back in.
I would like to see trade-offs. That's the thing I don't like about the core skills. There's no trade-off. Like, if you choose the crit or the CC, you should do less damage. If you choose, you could choose maybe a big AoE, but it does less damage. Like, I feel like there should be trade-offs for all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like they have so many different systems right now with Black Spirit Rage, Rabombs, core skills, like absolute skills, like so many different systems in the game that are just kind of add-on, like the add-on skills as well. I feel like they just need to kind of take all those ideas and remove them from the game and then reintroduce them as like something else. Morph skills, where you get to pick like 1 of 3 different versions of your skill for every single ability. For if you're picking Awakening, it's Awakening abilities. If you pick Succession, it's Succession. I don't know, something that kind of incorporates all these different ideas and kind of like a long-term vision that'll work for like the next 5 years in BDO. Because I don't want another 5 years of BDO of just getting random stuff added to the game.
Change.
Yeah.
And just get content instead of constant changes.
It's like we get like one
I just
random,
settle?
yeah, we got like 158 Rabam, and then we get core skills, and then now we have random Black Spirit Rage from 10 or was it 25, 15, 75% or whatever it is, like, and then now we have like one Elvia ability, like there needs to be like something where they plan for all the content, and it just goes in there. And say we're guiding Elvia, I just choose the Elvia morph of all my skills on Awakening. Like that would make a lot more sense. Or maybe I can only choose 3 out of 6 or something. Like make it where it's one consistent system that just supports all of those different creative ideas that they have, and that way it allows players to choose it, but allows also for future growth. Because I don't want to see next year Core 2.0. And in 2 years from now, Core 3.0, whatever they call it, right? I just want to see something that works for long term. And I feel like now we're just getting a lot of. I don't think cores are necessarily a bad thing, but there's no trade off for it, and it doesn't really support the Rabam system. It doesn't really support the add-on system. We have Elvia skills. It's like it's just getting too much tacked onto the current stuff without any planning. So
Yeah, cleanup would be nice.
Well, and they have shown that they're doing a lot of changes this year. Hopefully, it just doesn't stop, because a lot of the times, like they'll do a big balance patch in May. Unironically, it falls around May every time when they do it. Hopefully, it's not just like, okay, this is everything on the May 26th, and then
they're done. Oh there. Gosh, that'd be the worst.
Like, hopefully, they just continue to throw noodles at the wall and see what sticks over the course of this year.
For sure, something on May 26th is going to be astronomically broken. I don't know what it is. It might be like Succession DK in PvP. It might be Mystic in PvP. It might be Lawn in PvE. Lawn Awakening PvE. I don't know. Something's going to be astronomically broken just because the players haven't had their hands on it. They did a lot of changes, and that's fine. I don't mind that. But if they stop and they don't fix any of that stuff, that astronomically broken thing, then I think that's really, really bad. Because, doing a lot of changes and then, getting 25% of it wrong is just as bad as doing, no changes and leaving the bad stuff in the game, I feel like. I think the important thing is that they don't stop, like you said, and continue doing small iterative changes. Like that guy who's doing the patches right now, just make that his permanent job, and if he does a good job, give him a bonus. Like, I don't know, the guy deserves it, because it matters so much to the BDO player base for a fun experience.
Oh no, the Arena of Arsha tourney started.
No.
Is there anything else we need to hit on?
All right, let's go fast. All right, let's see here. Oh yeah, so there's a revive bug. So when Node Wars are going on, if you're on the same grind spot that currently has a Node War active, then people can't revive at the spot. They have to revive in town. Which
I saw that on Leaf Stream. Yeah, I saw that before. Yeah,
I did it at Hadoom. I don't know if it's all grind spots, but I did it at Hadoom. The node was active. I was on a Hadoom server. Obviously, no Node Wars were active because I was grinding, and I flagged up and someone killed me, and I had to respawn in town. I was like, "What is this? What is it?" And so then I ran back, and then I flagged up again and let him kill me again just to see if it was a bug, and I revived in town again, and I couldn't figure it out, and eventually we came to the conclusion that it was because Node was active on the node on another server at the same time, and because of that, we couldn't respawn at node, and we couldn't respawn at location. So, really interesting bug for PvP. It makes me really want to do a lot of PvP when Node Wars are active, because it's so much fun to make people respawn in town.
It's kind of interesting to watch, because I was watching a Leaf stream, and he was like fighting this guy, and if the guy killed him, he had to respawn in town, and if he killed the guy had to respawn in town, and there was like actually a gap in time, and you couldn't like tier. It didn't really seem like you could tier there either.
You could tier to save EXP, but the tier would always revive you in town still. There was no.
So that was kind of like interesting dynamic.
I hope they make that they learn from that and just make that a permanent thing, because that made it feel like getting killed. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to flag up again. I was like, like I want to be careful here. Like it made it a lot more impactful for flagging up. I liked it. Like, and I was the one flagging up. I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to flag up a second time. Like, you know what? Maybe I'm kind of happy to take half the mobs right now.
It would be pretty nice to be able to send people to town once you kill them. If they
Yeah.
kill them enough. Like maybe not, it doesn't have to be on the first death, but if someone's died like 3 times within a couple minutes, like send them to town.
Get them out of here. Get them back to town.
Get a debuff, right? If you die X amount of times in PvP.
They click to spawn where they're at, and then it just sends them to town anyways. Hey, I clicked right here. What's going on?
That would be actually kind of cool. Like, get a debuff every time you die, and when you get up to 3 debuffs, then from that time forward, you spawn in town or something. I don't know. That I really, really enjoyed spawning in town. Like, I thought when that happened, I was like, this needs to be a permanent addition to the game. For sure. Anyway, that was the one thing that's an interesting bug. Hopefully they make that a permanent feature. Not just a nodeware bug. Event treasure locations for events this week. So you can now grind at different grind spots like Featherwolves for the potion piece. Or you can grind hunting for Featherwolves for the other potion piece. You can do Cadres. And what's the other one? There's one other one that's pretty good.
There's the Prodi Cavern, right?
Yeah.
People like Prodi Cavern?
Prodi, Kratuga, Gyfin. I've seen my friends do all of these spots.
Really?
Recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot of like mid-tier to low-tier geared friends, and they like trying out all the different strats and stuff, and it's really cool trying to kind of guide them and help them.
Yeah, I saw some people grinding Gyfins try to get an Elton just to kind of meme it.
Yep. Saw Kugels finally leave history to go there. I was like, holy cow!
Oh, she gets to leave to go there?
She finally left history and was trying some Gyfin.
The other thing is it did 50% drop rate for 2 weeks, and it's only during hot time and all the time during it's on the weekend. It's stupid. It's so dumb, isn't it? I can only imagine that they got the most hate mail they've ever seen because of this.
It's like every event they've done recently and before, like before this, every event has been all the time nonstop. So it's so weird for them to do it only during hot time, because people have gotten accustomed to the event not being a hot time event and being a normal thing. It's like you have players all over the world. You got players all different time zones, and now you're rewarding one specific set of people.
Yeah, dude. And normally I would be like, whatever, but like, fuck. I've been trying to get my BDOing over for the day, so I'll start at like 10 and then I'll go for like 7 hours or something like that when I'm feeling it. Well, then right as I'm about to stop for the day, fucking the 50% starts. And I'm like, well, shit, dude, I lose out on the 50%.
Here we go again.
Fuck. So it's like, well, I was doing it last night. Well, then I was like, well, I guess I should, it's 50% on all day today. I might as well do a couple extra hours to make up for it.
I hope they make it as a permanently on thing and allow people to schedule their own time for it. I do hope. I don't like this. Like if they want to make it a semi on, I think it's much better to tie it to day and night, because day and night is available all the time. So like make it where it's only like daytime has it, or only make it where only nighttime has it. Like that would be, I think, a little bit more interesting of a change.
It's like to the actual game cycle, not like a time zone in America or something.
Yeah, and that makes it feel more immersive too. Like make it nighttime and you get 200% drop rate only for like 40 minutes at nighttime. That would be cool, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of glad they came up with that 10% nighttime change so quickly. Like,
True.
you're like, man, wouldn't it be cool if nighttime had a drop rate buff? Boom, next week. All right, guys, nighttime has a drop rate buff. I was like, okay, now was it always like that, or did they just like tell us? Like,
yo,
like,
you know what? Maybe it has been that way for years.
Or... Makes me wonder, like, has it always just been there and now they're just telling us?
I'm telling you, horoscopes have an effect. I'm telling you they do.
Oh no, here we go again.
I'm waiting on
like,
it.
At the 5 to 6 a.m. era, I'm constantly getting tons of drops every morning.
I'm telling
it's
you,
like my golden hour.
I'm telling you, there is horoscopes affect it. They're going to come out with a system in like a year. Like, look, horoscopes give you extra drop rate bonuses, and like. They're going to be like, look at this brand new system. It's only 10%. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, it was there the entire time. I knew it. I'm calling it. They even said in the last the last thing they were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like horoscopes occasionally gave you
Horoscope did
+1
something.
fell stack,
You know?
or like gave you a little extra luck at the grind spot, and everybody's like, no, that'd be terrible. They're like, oh, we would we would never do that.
Bruh.
We would never do that. It's definitely not been in the game for years. Like, I don't know. I think I wonder sometimes, man. I think the cool thing that they actually mentioned with the 50% drop rate event is they actually told us what mobs are affected by drop rate and what mobs are not affected by drop rate, which basically confirms a lot of our suspicions about different things. One thing I thought was cool is that they mentioned some type of sea monster is affected by loot scrolls. And I'm guessing it's the one that drops the map part or the selling part, the selling treasure item.
The Crocs.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's what it is.
Saltwater crocodiles.
There was one in there. I don't know if that was the one, but they mentioned some sea creature that or sea monster that could be affected by loot scrolls, which I thought was kind of neat. And that's actually really impactful because back in the day, Mirmok wasn't able to get affected by loot scrolls, as well as Guy from Rasa, and they changed that. And so I think it's really nice that they include us in here, so we have a nice clean list that we can reference in the future if anyone ever wants to argue about it. Now we have a list, right? So pretty nice. And I think, oh yeah, well I mean, the Arena of Arsha tournament, the finals is happening right now.
Yes, it's happening right now.
Right. Well, we need to end this. What are your thoughts on
Yes.
it?
I've enjoyed it.
I kind of feel bad that people that were in the old tourneys get like a title that'll never be removed, but the new tourney, this one, if in the next tournament, if someone else beats you and like if someone else is the champion, they get unrivaled. So the title moves to champion. So it's like I feel bad for players that wanted a one-time I am the greatest blank, because that's what the original titles were back in the day, and kind of sad that unrivaled is just going to be one of those like, you get it, but someone just beats you and.
But they get the permanent Arsha weapon skin though. That's 100%. The real kicker.
True. I mean,
it's animated too. It's animated too. Can you imagine having? I like the I think it's the Lancia from Valkyrie on Awakening. You're just like it's like like
really sick.
I'm like, oh, look at me that. Give me. Like, I'm going to main Valkyrie. How good are Valkyrie mains on PvP? Like, I just had to one-shot him, right?
It's better to look good. Who cares about being good? As long as you look good.
Exactly. That's pretty pog. Let's zoom through the last little bit here. We have some other games. We'll probably talk more about these next week. Elyon closed beta happened. So we can have some closing thoughts on that. We had Bless Unleashed beta, not to be confused with Bless Online. Bless Unleashed is a new game and different than Bless Online. I know it's confusing, but it's different. Lost Ark is apparently coming out in August, is the current rumor mill. And Subnautica Below Zero came out, which Morlin will be our specialist on that.
Yeah, I figure, because I played a decent bit of Elyon beta and the Bless beta with Morlin, so I figured we could it'd be better for us to tackle those games on Friday when he comes back for the next episode.
Absolutely. Blonde Bear, have you played any of these?
I have not. I haven't done anything except for focus on BDO. I think I played a little bit of the new season of TFT, which I really like. I played so a little bit of Rainbow Six. I've been playing Dota 2 with some friends actually, and that's been pretty fun because there's some friends that like Dota more than League. So that's been a fun learning process, trying to figure out the hundreds of characters and which one I like. But no, it's primarily been BDO, and I've been watching a lot of shows and stuff, trying to tackle some stuff I've wanted to. I recently finished Demon Slayer, so I want to go watch the movie with my wife. And then I finished there's the new shows on Netflix. There's Jupiter's Legacy, cool superhero show. Not the best, but it's a cool start. And then there's Shadow and Bone, new Netflix series that just came out, super good as well.
I watched that too.
That's a really good one. I thought that was sick. That was the quality of everything, the writing, the story, everything was awesome. And then the other thing I've been watching was what else is Invincible on Amazon Prime. Incredible. Woo. Really good show.
I watched
So-
the first episode of Invincible. It's pretty good. I need to finish it.
It's very. It sucks because like I think we've had so many shows and stories out there these days. I'm sorry, we're gonna end it. So yeah, sorry. Let's end it. Then I can talk and ramble.
Yo, Blomber, what have you been up to this week? Yeah, give yourself a shout out. Tell everybody what you're up to. When can we expect to see you stream?
Dude, I don't know. My stream's been tough because my wife got a new job, so it's kind of hard to stream because like I have to cut my streams off early because she has to talk to people. She has a lot of phone calls and stuff. So she's going through training. So my stream schedules are kind of sparse and they're not very long. But as soon as she gets into the new job, which should be very soon, she'll be once she gets to the new job schedule where she's working night shift, I'll have my normal stream times and everything back. So I don't really have an ETA. It's really kind of dependent on when she finishes. We got about another week or so. So hopefully it won't be much longer. And then I'll be back to regular scheduled programming. But all I'm doing is grinding the merchant ring. So it's just going to be doing AFK trade routes and begging for Nolan's group.
Well, I wish you best of luck on your Rich Merchant Ring grind. Thank you for joining this week. Kerr, what you got going on this week? Well, I guess you're already watching the Arena of Varsha.
Watching the Arena of Varsha today. I guess we're gonna continue suffering. We're gonna continue suffering through whatever you call it, the Sork punishment that chat has bestowed onto me. But that's about it.
For me, I am going to, I guess, play Sage, slowly get him up to 63, get Mystic up to 62, and try to figure out what I want to do for the drop rate event next weekend. That is about it for me. Thanks, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. That has been episode 44 of Nerds and Words. You can find us on Spotify and on YouTube. Have a good one.